Hey guys, just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up. This episode, one, I want to apologize. Technically, this episode should have been up this previous Thursday. However, because of an interview that I was conducting for the show, it got pushed back, editing took a little bit longer, and it became a whole thing. So I want to thank you all for being patient, especially with the holidays. I've looked it up. December 1st, I believe, would have been the 1 year anniversary of the Shameless Picture Show. And I'm sure in the upcoming episode, me and Nick are going to do something proper as a way to celebrate our 1 year anniversary. But I guess in a weird way, this episode has kind of become an anniversary episode. So thank you all for listening, and thank you all for your patience. I know it necessarily hasn't been easy, and while we've done a good job, I think, of keeping to our every other Thursday schedule. Sometimes things happen and life gets in the way. But the reason I'm recording this is to give a little preface. So I know someone who worked on Rocky, who was close personal friends of John G. Avildsen, the director. And I asked him if he wanted to be on the show, and he said yes. And that person's name is Lloyd Kaufman. For those of you who don't know, Lloyd Kaufman is the co-creator of Trauma Entertainment. He is also the creator of The Toxic Avenger, which is exciting. I met Lloyd many years ago at the Cannes Film Festival. I was an editor for him for many years, and he was a production manager on Rocky and worked on a lot of John G. Avildsen's films. So like I said, Lloyd was gracious enough to come on the show and talk for a while. And talk for a while he did. Originally, this was supposed to be a half-hour interview, and I think he talked 20 minutes alone just about how he met John before he even got to Rocky. And while there's times I tried to steer him a little bit back on topic, I just kind of let Lloyd go and be Lloyd. Those of you who don't know what he's like, you're going to hear it. He's a very sweet man. He's knowledgeable as hell. And while many people know him because of Trauma, The Toxic Avenger, and the schlocky films, Trauma-esque films he does not like the word schlock. People don't realize how generally knowledgeable he is. He's a Yale graduate. He's fluent in French. He is one of the smartest people I know. And this turned out to be a really great interview. And my only regret is that I was trying to cut it a little short for time. But he gave some great stuff. He gave some great filmmaking advice that he got from John. And yeah, I was so happy that he was able to sit down and talk with us. So, that being said, I wanted to do this now because when I was talking to Lloyd, we never officially got an introduction in on the show. So, this is a special episode. We're talking about one of my favorite movies. My buddy Greg, who will be introduced here in a couple minutes, is on the show, and I get to sit down and talk with Lloyd Kaufman about Rocky, about John G. Avildsen, and filmmaking in general. Thank you guys for the great year of support. We love you all. I'll cut this short, and let's get on to Rocky. Please, let us know what you think of this episode, because I'm very proud of it. I also want to thank a couple people. I want to thank Zach McLean for recording a really nice new intro that you're going to hear in just a moment. I want to thank Patrick Beck for selling me, I still owe him money for it, but selling me a really nice microphone to make the show sound pretty. And I want to thank the Directionals. There's so many people I want to thank. Thank you all. And thanks for listening.
Warning! This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. If this doesn't appeal to you, why listen to a movie podcast? Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Take a sip of my caffeinated lemonade.
Delightful.
Delightful. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Shameless Picture Show. I am Michael Viers, and with me, as always, is the only man that can eat lightning and Crap Thunder.
Nick Richards!
It really, your butt's gonna hurt after that.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. I can do it. I would prefer not to.
Yeah, I can do it. I just don't wanna. And this is the first time for the Shameless Picture Show where we've had a guest, and Nick is here as well.
Just causing a little bit of chaos. That's all about.
It is. But as the voice you just heard, joining us today is my oldest friend in the film world, Gregory Bishop.
Hello.
Greg, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, because I like having Greg on here because we started at the lowly bottom of film school. He's risen up. I'm working at Best Buy. He's living the dream. Tell us a little about yourself, Greg.
I won't say I'm living the dream, but it's fun. But I am just a general film festival guy. I work in Atlanta. I'm a programmer. I'm a programmer for a couple film festivals, and I also do a lot of content management. So I'm that guy who you ship your print to, and I make sure it gets there to the venue and it gets back. So
you're a tastemaker.
Yes.
Like you're like, I'm a programmer. No,
not necessarily.
You're a tastemaker, man. You have the choice to decide what is shown. You can be like, that film is shit. Fuck it. We're gonna show Rocky again. No,
just like you show have Rocky for 10 days. Yeah.
No film has been good enough. Rocky for 10 days.
No, tastemaker is not quite. I mean, programming is a lot of it's gauging content for your audience within the demographic, in this case Atlanta, which is in the Atlanta area. So bringing cinema that otherwise wouldn't come here, or bringing films that Atlanta filmmakers, or rather films that Atlanta audiences would love to see, and kind of get the community excited. It differs when you're a big international film. Well, we're an international film festival. When you're like one with a major hub, a lot of people coming in. Usually tends to like turn into a market, but that's basically the gist of it. It's a lot of fun though. A lot of watching. A lot of like my day job is to watch films, like thousands of films. Like last year, I had to watch a couple thousand shorts, and then this year, well, the difference was last year I didn't have enough time. I only had like a couple weeks to like go through it. This year I had a whole year to do it, so that was nice. But it's pretty fun. So
you have no reason to complain, because you know what my day job is? You coming into Best Buy and me convincing you need a new router, which you probably do.
Quick question: do I need a new router? Like,
I imagine
it cuts out every so often. I don't know. Maybe
you need a new router and a new modem. I'll sell you on that later. So
right.
this is exciting for me. This is exciting for me because I met Greg early on in film school. We bonded over love for stupid movies, and a general enjoyment of wearing face paint I found later on, because like I think like we made a couple of things that required us to put face paint on, and we were all okay with it. And then
art school,
Nick,
Exactly.
Nick,
and I make terrible movies, so for you two to enjoy.
I don't agree with you, sir. I think Normal is a great movie. Stop being harsh on yourself. Nick and I, Greg, if you don't know, met each other at the Lloyd Film Festival.
Nice.
He kind of just invited himself to the table.
Yeah, like, hey, Simpsons and old school horror tattoos, like this guy I can talk to.
Yeah, because like I went to go see his film Normal, and like me and Amanda ordered some cheese curds from a restaurant that's known for them. So like, well, fuck, we have to have cheese curds. And Nick is like, I see you guys are eating cheese curds. Can I join in? And then it's been the love affair you know now for years, and then 28 episodes of a TV show.
And I met Greg when I did a podcast with him today.
Yeah, about 10 minutes ago.
Which is funny because I forget, Nick, that you don't know all the people I do, because you're like, so I forget that like you don't know Greg, you don't know some of these people, because I feel like because I do this show with you, they all at least are aware of who you are.
Uh-oh. Well, and something else that's weird we've talked about, but so Greg and the audience hears that I grew up in Wisconsin, like outside of Milwaukee.
Nice.
My whole life. Moved away halfway across the country, and then met Michael.
Yeah. So, who would have known?
What year were you in Beloit?
Was that
20...
08, 09? 08.
Whoa, no, it wasn't that long ago. Because I've only been with Amanda for about almost 5 years. So.
It couldn't have been that
2014?
late. It couldn't have been that late. I shot it
20
in 2010.
Oh, nice.
2014? 2013 maybe?
13. I think it was 2013.
Nice.
Me and Amanda had just gotten together, and it was like, let me show you my world. And they put me up in a hotel and everything. It was a sweet time, and
Nice.
that was when I was showing for both From the Darkness Theater and Love You Still, which is two movies that couldn't be any different. And it was great doing Q&As for that. It's like, I got a question for whoever did From the Darkness Theater. Oh, that's me. Why did you have that man get murdered with a film canister? And I explain why. I've got a question for the person that directed Love You Still. I'd raise my hand again. That's me. Oh.
Why didn't you have that man killed with a film canister?
Get with it.
Like it.
Yeah.
Cool.
But anyways, on today's episode, we'll be discussing John G. Avildsen and Sylvester Stallone's 70s classic, Rocky. Rocky tells the story about a young, nobody boxer named Rocky Balboa. In his youth, he could have easily been a contender, but after falling... let me start that sentence over again. Through the magic of editing, it never happened.
Which we won't edit.
Nope. In his youth, he could have easily been a contender, but after falling in with the wrong crowd, he works run-down boxing clubs for the little bit of money he can scrape together. However, Rocky's luck changes when the world heavyweight champion Apollo Creed. There is a professional wrestler by the name of Apollo Crews, so I got it confused. Oh my God. However, Rocky's luck changes when world heavyweight champion Apollo Creed needs a new challenger. Creed's old challenger can't fight, and Creed, forever the showman, is enamored by Rocky's moniker, the Italian Stallion. Rocky, together with his impish but beautiful girlfriend Adrian, sets out to go the distance and prove that he's not a bum and is actually a great boxer. Directed in 1976 by John G. Avildsen from a script written by our man Sylvester Stallone, Rocky has become the ultimate underdog story, and while cliched at times, it's got enough heart, pain, and instances of human suffering that arises above its failings. Rocky was nominated for 9 Academy Awards and won 3 of them.
His name is Sylvester Stallone. He's the star of a new film called Rocky. He's been described as tough, handsome, talented, sexy, sensitive, dynamic, brilliant. He's been compared to Nicholson, De Niro, and Brando, but he is Rocky. He's the man who could be loved by only one woman because somehow she gets beneath the pain. He's every nobody who ever needed somebody.
Rocky, do you believe that America is the land of opportunity?
Yeah.
I'll break both your arms so they don't work for you.
He's every man who ever settled for something less.
What about my pride, Nick? At least you have pride. I ain't had no pride. I ain't had enough. I want to get that. I want to get that.
Terrific. I mean, you could be a heartbreak. You walk down the street breaking hearts the way you're looking. Very sharp.
He's the man who never had a chance until now. Rocky. His whole life was 1,000,000 to 1 shot. His name is Sylvester Stallone, but you will always remember him as Rocky.
Because of how it took me forever to get through that intro, but with the way this show works, I have seen Rocky. It is probably one of my favorite movies, and a movie that every time I see it, I find something new I love about it. Greg, you specifically asked to be on this episode.
Yeah, I'm a big
I didn't
fan.
invite you. You're like, you messaged me. He's like, can I be on that Rocky episode? I'm like, fuck yeah. Nick, this is on your shame list.
It is.
So
Well,
let's
it is no longer on my shame list, but as of 2 days ago, it was.
So let's start, as always, with what you thought about it.
All right. So Rocky never appealed to me growing up. Again, because it is so well known. You've seen the parodies, you've seen the references, you pretty much know what the story is going into it. nothing about it appealed to me. Like, I'm not that excited about boxing. I didn't see anything that said you have to go see this.
That's fair. I get that.
And the first 5-10 minutes, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's what I expected. Excuse me. I was not expecting not only Rocky's character, but some of the other characters to be as well thought out as they were. Even like Paulie, right? Paulie's an asshole throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, Paulie's terrible. Yeah,
but he's strangely likable though. In the end of the day, because you don't feel like he's ever being a jerk. He's an asshole because that's his characteristic, but he's never trying to be hurtful. I don't think.
Paulie's flawed. He's clearly someone who's hurting, someone who didn't get in life. He had all sorts of these expectations in a lot of ways that aren't very sympathetic, but as you kind of see Adrian kind of come out of her shell and Rocky come up in his world, you start to kind of empathize in the trio of characters. And it's always been kind of funny because, like, I don't want to get too tangenty, but like with Paulie, he starts off as this tragic character, a side character in this film, and it becomes like comic relief in the later films. Yeah. Like, but if we get to the sequels, I'll delve into that, how that just gets weirder and weirder. But
well, you've heard it right here. Greg is a forever guest on any Rocky sequel that we do.
Oh yeah,
they're all on my shame list. So, what really took Paulie from a two-dimensional character to an incredibly deep character was when him and his sister have that confrontation towards the end of Paulie's storyline, and he goes from yelling and just, okay, I'm an asshole, to, he says, you were supposed to be nice to me.
He's asking me for a job all the time, but you don't know nothing about fighting.
Are you going to say anything to him?
What to say? I just don't know what he wants from me.
I don't want nothing from you. I don't want nothing from you. This ain't no charity case. Get out of my house.
It's not just your house.
You're no friend no more. Get out of my house, I just said.
Don't talk to him like that.
Both of you get out of my house.
Yo. It's cold outside, Paulie.
I don't want you missing her. And I don't raise you to go with this scumbag. Yeah, come on! You want to hit on me? Come on! I'll break both your arms so they don't work for you. That's right, I'm not good enough to meet with Gazzo. Ooh, that's what I think of Gazzo. Now you're a big shot fighter on the way up. You don't even throw a crumb to your friend Paulie. When I go and get your meat every morning, you forgot that night I even give you my sister too.
I can't say that!
I'm a pig. A pig gets you the best. You're such a loser. I don't get married because of you. You can't live by yourself. I put you two together and you. Don't you forget it. You owe me. You owe me.
What I owe you?
You're supposed to be good to me.
In this tragic, pained, like, you were supposed to be the one person that was nice to me. And your heart breaks. Like, he's still an asshole, but you see all of this background with that one line that
he's got pathos.
Yep. That made him interesting. And, again, that's just one example of how well not only was the script written and clearly directed, but what all of the actors brought to it to really make what Stallone wrote come to life. It was a character piece. It wasn't a sports movie. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't expecting that.
And people often ask me, did you know what you were making? Well, you never know. But amongst us, though we said it in just a whisper, we thought we were making something original and pure. Now, Rocky is a great boxing movie, but I like to think it was also a love story. Yeah. So, about, boy, two unlikely people. And in one kiss, they're transformed. Adrian becomes, and remember, Sylvester wrote Adrian. This is his design from out of his ribs, so to speak. Adrian, she becomes his partner. She becomes a moral force, and she is forever in his corner.
I'm glad you said that because I second your feeling earlier about like having no appeal to the Rocky films. Like, I'm not a sports fan. When younger,
I like professional wrestling, and that's it.
Yeah, I all I associated with the Rocky pictures was that these were films for sports fans. I never got through it in high school. I think later on in college, I actually got into it. When I finally saw them, I realized these are not about boxing at its core. It's about, it's about the spirit of these characters and triumphing. And while that gets a little ridiculous later on in the franchise, this film kind of really emphasized that well. And the film, is a direct reflection of the production too, because it's such a grind. I mean, this movie had like no budget. Stallone was broke. You had a film that a lot of people didn't think would do well. It was just a B picture. They were shooting, and I think a lot of the kind of grime of it and grind of it was a direct reflection of just those involved. So I think it had a lot of heart and soul put into it, just from everyone trying to get it made.
Oh, no, I completely agree. And like even just the fact that when Stallone wrote it because he couldn't get an acting job, so he wrote something for himself. And even then, they didn't want him. Mm-hmm. They thought his accent was too thick. They didn't think he was good looking enough, and all these other things. But no, you're right. For me too, sports films, I like them now. There's still some that I really like because I feel like a good sports film is a film that you don't have to like the sport to enjoy.
Yeah. Sure.
And I saw this film as a young kid. I saw them out of order, but my mom and dad really liked them because my dad was actually was a little bit of a boxing guy, and scenes of it kind of stuck with me. So like as an adult or sometime in high school, I bought a DVD of it, and that's when I fell in love with the story of Rocky. And the thing I like about, and Greg, you kind of touched on the oeuvre of the franchise a little bit, and this is not really a spoiler, but like there's one clear thesis statement that happens in this film that I think you can use to sum up practically the entire franchise. Is that one little exchange between Mickey and Rocky near the beginning, when Mickey is like, "Hey, Rock, have you thought about retiring?" "No, I haven't." "Think about it." That is the entire The entire franchise is all about Rocky. Should I retire? Should I still be doing this? Mm-hmm. And ultimately not being able to, because it's something that I don't know if it's out of love of the sport or something because he feels he has to do. Mm-hmm. It never quite happens. Because the original ending of the film was supposed to be Rocky throws the fight because he realized he doesn't want to be a boxer.
Okay. A very different story.
Historically, that would have completely changed things. Like just thinking,
I don't know if it would have done as well.
No.
To be honest,
it wouldn't. I don't think it would have been. I mean, had it ended with him winning, I think it would have been not. Spoiler, but I'm so used to everyone having seen it. But
we pretty much don't believe in spoilers on this show.
Oh, okay, I can say whatever.
Listening to an episode about Rocky, if you're listening to an episode about Rocky, expect Rocky to be spoiled.
I think. I also think that anecdote, considering the franchise, that little anecdote about the series is common knowledge at this point. Like it's like if you know Rocky, you know how the first one ends because it's not how Rocky 2 ends. And like there's like that.
You're not getting a rematch. I don't want one.
There you go. So,
are you telling me that you bet in the fight in Rocky 3 and that you bet against Rocky?
See, Nick hasn't even seen them, and he knows what happened.
Was pretty rad,
But since with the anecdotal of type of this show does, and Greg, you've already touched on something I wanted to talk on. So if you guys don't mind, I want to go back and touch on something he mentioned.
Yep.
You mentioned the grit and the grime of this film, and there's a subgenre, and granted that I know this film takes place in Philadelphia, but hear me out. There's a subgenre of film that I like. Usually low budget horror and exploitation films. I call it the grit and the grime of New York, and this is the most New York film shot in Philadelphia that I've ever seen. Because the thing I said about this film has texture. all over it. Not even just the lower film stock they use, so there's grain everywhere. Every scene of this film has got texture, down from what they're wearing, the locations they choose to shoot in. Everywhere is a character. Even just that one little scene between Rocky and his boss, which I cannot think of his name right now, but it's Joe Spinell from Maniac. They're just at like some little cheesesteak place, just sipping on coffee, and he's like,
Pat's, I believe.
Yeah, when he was just, I don't remember the exact line of dialogue where he's like, here's some money for training expenses. It's a small little throwaway scene, but they've got a really great location, the use of fluorescent lighting. It has that gritty and grimy feel. Every scene of this movie is textured, and it feels believable. Even his apartment, which feels like a set, feels like a real location.
Yeah.
Speaking on a meta moment there, actually, kind of like speaking to the grime of it, there's a bit in it that really, a line in the film that really sends it home because of how true it is. Like when Rocky is upset and he's fighting with Mickey in his apartment, he's like, this stinks, this bathroom, he's getting angry at something kind of innocuous, but that room actually was foul. It really was, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of lends to it, I think.
Took me long enough to get here. You 10 years to come to my house. Huh? What's the matter? You don't like my house? My house stink? That's right, it stinks!
I ain't asked no favors from you. Don't fall around me.
Talk about your prime.
What about my prime, Nick? At least you had a prime. I ain't had no prime. I ain't had nothing. Legs are going, everything is going. No one's getting no nothing. Guy comes up, offers me a fight. Big deal. Want to fight the fight? Yeah, I'll fight the big fight. I wouldn't want to fight that big fight. What's going to happen to me? I want to get that. I want to get that. And you want me ringside and see it? Do you? You want to help me out? Huh? Do you want to see me get my face kicked in? Legs ain't working. Nothing's working. They go on, fight the chair. Yeah, I'll fight him.
My face kicked in. And you come around here, you want to move in here with me? Come on in, it's a nice house. Real nice, come on in and move. It stinks. This whole place stinks.
Oh, when he invites Adrian to sit on the couch with him, and it's covered with beer bottles and newspapers, and you can tell that he's just filling the silence with this rambling, but he's like, it's a good couch. It's like it that, and then again when he's fighting in the apartment, like he throws out these little lines that shows how kind of that really illustrates that he's trying to prove that he's not a bum. That he is kind of ashamed of how he lives and where he's ended up, but he's fighting so hard against it. In the beginning, when he's looking in the mirror and he has those pictures of himself as a kid, he's got his own self-reflection, literally, and then the reminder of who he was before he made all the choices he made that led to this point, and takes it off. It's like, here's who I am now, here's who I was, and there's this look of shame on his face.
It's funny that you mentioned filling the silence, because that's always that's just a testament to how charming the Rocky character is, because that whole scene could have come off very rapey had there been a less charming character, because you never got like it was bad intentions from Rock's part at all, even him inviting her up. Yeah. Because I always took it as him filling the silence with talking, because I remember watching this movie in high school, and I was showing then an ex-girlfriend the movie, and she hated it. She was like, he won't stop talking, and she thought it was just Stallone being a bad actor and constantly improvising. I always took it as an intentional character choice where he talks because he knows that, he's not a catch and he can't let his looks and everything else do the talking, so he fills the silence so that way he doesn't have to be rejected.
I agree.
That's the way I've always viewed it.
That's how
you mean in the ice rink bit where he's like walking yeah.
Worst first date ever.
I don't know. I thought it was actually kind of sweet and charming. Like, granted, it's only 10 minutes, but
I agree. I mean, like, that also is, that's the kind of chemistry between Rocky and Adrian at that point. It kind of shows something that, I mentioned earlier about this story being about all of them coming up in this, her coming out of her shell, and that's him helping her, and then later on her helping him, so it's like a mutual kind of relationship.
Did anyone else catch at the beginning of the film? Like, and I didn't catch it until this most recent viewing, and this is the reason I love this movie, because I keep noticing little things. Before Adrian's introduced for the first time, he's practicing what he's gonna say to her in the mirror about how this food's got more flies than, this one's got more like I was wondering why he was saying that. He's practicing what he's gonna say to her because he's nervous.
That. Oh my god, no.
Is developing the joke because he wants to tell her a joke every single day, and I'll come up with a good joke for you tomorrow.
Yeah. Like, the reason I think this movie works so well for me is because of the character. Rocky is he's a brute with a soul. Because the reason I don't like most sports movies is because, like, I can't say this movie doesn't have cliches. It does. I feel like, though, this movie might have but been the kick-starting point for some of those cliches, but a lot of them have, like, the very tough, intense character who is going to motivate his team, and it's all about masculinity and brah. This movie is like, before his big fight, his catalyst is, I can't do this.
Yeah, and I think why the Rocky character worked for me is you've seen the flawed hero over and over again. You've seen the dumb jock over and over again. But Rocky never felt like a trope to me. His version of dumb, his version of unintelligent, innocently unintelligent but frustrated at the same time, had so much depth to it. And with little lines that are peppered throughout it and the way that it was brought to life, that made the entire difference between me liking and not liking this movie.
Yeah, I was actually just going to say, I don't think you never said whether or not you liked the movie because we interrupted you, but you did like the movie.
I did like
it.
Okay. You were talking about shots in the beginning, or things that you caught in the beginning, and one thing that I noticed was from the very first shot, you should know that this is a redemption story, like even if you had never heard of Rocky. Because that opening shot is of the mural of Jesus in the boxing ring, and under it says resurrection.
It's a little on the nose, but it works.
Totally on the nose.
It's some academic on the nose right there.
Funny thing is, that opening is so on the nose, but yet they do some very subtle things during that opening that I love. Like the very beginning of the film, which I wonder if it was added afterwards, where Rocky's coming across the screen. That's all well and good. I always forget that's in there, because what always sticks with me is the opening film has this significant lack of glory to it. The fight is filmed in a lot of wide shots. It doesn't look too spectacular. It's not being shot for effect. You can hear the crowd and everything and how they're just not having this fight.
Yeah,
and then we go in the back. And we go in the back and we see, these two dudes who got the shit beat out of them. No, like, hey, good match or anything. Yeah. They're like, one's drinking a beer and they're just waiting for their money. And, the guy promoter straight up, it's like, here's your cut. Here's all the money I'm taking out of it because of these reasons. Yeah. There's no glory.
And Rocky's reaction is, when can I be here again?
Yeah. And what sticks with me is, to me, the real opening credits of the film is after that, when they're bringing up all the titles, and they just subtly bring up Rocky as if it's an actor's name when he's walking down the street. It's, Sylvester Stallone, John G. Allison, Rocky, and it just goes away. There's no glory to the titles either. You see where the movie begins and where it ends, and the big spectacular that it becomes. That's one thing. So it was on the nose as that shot of Jesus was. I like how almost an afterthought the credits were, because that's how the character is.
Even the credits are blue collar.
Yeah, it's not wrong. And then, like, just these little things I love about this film, like early on in the when he's buying the food for his fish, for his turtles. And, hey, Rock, you got to pay for that. He's like, I'm going to. Crime don't pay. Instantaneously, cut to him working for a fucking mobster, breaking people's thumbs for money. Like, and it's not, and the irony is not lost on him.
Oh, completely.
Oh no.
Like there's just little things that, and Bill Conti's score, while repetitive, because I think they keep using the same musical cues throughout, is very effective. I watched the movie alone the other day because Amanda was at work, and by the end of the film, I was actually bawling. Like when Adrian came out to watching him fight, and she turns her back. Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls, Frankie darling.
Niagara Falls, Frankie Angel.
Yeah, to quote Scrooge, Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't mind that. I know there's some people get pissed off when they cry during a movie. I went to school for film. I get the whole idea of emotional manipulation, and if I feel it coming, I just let it go. But there's so much sincerity to the characters, and with that, I'm not talking about the big, "Gotta Fly Now" theme. I'm talking about the little musical cues throughout. They really
Getting stronger. Somebody heard that and thought, this needs the lyrics in case you're not sure what this montage is supposed to represent.
It's almost like I agree. It's almost like the lyrics were were working lyrics, just so you had an idea, and they got used to it and just forgot to take
Rocky
it out.
is running, punching a side of beef.
Look at, there's a dog now.
Butkus.
Hey, Butkus. You notice in the credits it says Butkus Stallone, dog.
So is the acting dog's name Dog?
Is Butkus. No, the character's name is Dog. The dog's actual name is Butkus Stallone. It was Stallone's actual dog.
Oh, okay. So then it should have been... Didn't they name...
I think it's just so that dog would
name?
respond. He wasn't an acting dog, I assume. It was Stallone's actual dog, so he probably called him Butkus just so he would respond.
Then it should have been Butkus Stallone as himself.
I agree. Like, it should have been a little nod in the wig. I'm gonna name you Butkus Stallone, and then he looks at the camera.
I'm shamelessly trying to Google this fact, but I believe he
apparently
tried selling Butkus.
Apparently you have not listened to the show because I Google things all the time in the episode.
Okay, good. I'm not.
So,
and I could be wrong, but I remember he was such in a dour place. He tried to sell Butkus.
Yes,
They
talk about that. They talk about that in the documentary. Thing is, I grew up with Stallone as being, in my opinion, granted this opinion has changed since then, as the less interesting Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Sure.
I always say less interesting because Schwarzenegger had the accent and he was Terminator, and at the time, Stallone's movies weren't as good.
Yeah.
However, watching the documentary on the disc and just learning what I have... Oop, I dropped my fidget spinner. Learning what I have about Stallone... it's gone for good now. I can't grab it. I have learned
the deep depths of Michael's
I have
desk.
learned that he's a far more interesting director and actor than I ever gave him credit for. And to find out that he wrote this film, and I've read the script since then, and it's really passionately written. It doesn't feel like some big brute wrote it. It felt like someone with a soul wrote it. Because, I thought
Rocky
of Stallone.
has a soul.
It
shows.
I thought of Stallone. Whenever I thought of Stallone, I thought of Demolition Man,
right.
Which I love Demolition Man, but
very different character.
It is a very different character, and that's the type of Rocky or Stallone that I was used to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting listening to him. This kid who got into acting because he wanted to act. He was passionate about it. This big, brutish young Italian guy who wants to be an actor, which is normally a career for those who are a little more soulful, and he felt he had a lot to prove, and I wish he would have gotten more roles like this. And while I enjoyed the entire Rocky franchise, my biggest thing, the reason I still think this is the best of the franchise, is there's a quality to it that when Stallone was directing, while he was a really good, competent director, John G. Avildsen brings out a lot more of that grit that you're talking about, and that dourness. And granted, later on when Rocky has money, you don't need that grit, but I don't know. I guess I don't know what I'm trying to say, but there's just a quality to this film that makes it so damn rewatchable that I could realistically put the movie in again right now and not feel upset about it. And I just watched it the other day.
I had the fortune of seeing it in the theater for the first time a couple years ago. In Atlanta here, we have the Fox Theater. It's like this huge theater, multi-purpose. I think it's multi-purpose. I actually been for anything but a movie, but most of the time I think it's shows and theater. But they did a brief film festival where they played Rocky. and that's an experience in and of itself.
Did it play well?
Yeah, it went well. It was great. And I had just seen, prior to that, I had seen Creed in the theater, in a full theater, and just
Creed is great.
Creed was amazing. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because these films have such an incredible audience presence to them, especially if you see them for the first time. The vibe you get. I mean, seeing it singular, seeing it at home, that's totally fine. But if anyone out there has an opportunity to see any Rocky film, especially if you've never seen it before, with people who haven't seen it before, see it in a theater. Because it sifts through the audience. It really gets to them. It's incredible. I had people cheering at the end of Creed in my theater, and that was awesome. Now they didn't quite have that reaction in the Rocky rescreening at the Fox, but it's because it's a 40-some-year-old film. Everyone knows, but it was just a classic.
Rocky has a strange ending too, because the period ends.
I felt that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It period ends, and they have their hugging, not like a real hug, but they need to say something to each other type moment, and it was kind of lackluster, but not really, because there's excitement for Rocky because he went 13 fucking rounds with the world champion. But no, Creed definitely has a more ending.
Mm-hmm. I used the word abrupt.
Yes,
it ends and you're expecting at least one more scene. Mm-hmm. I would want to watch it a couple more times before I really throw out an opinion on whether or not I think that works. Mm-hmm. But it was like, oh, credits. Okay. We can do it that way.
Well, and that's the difference between Avildsen's directing and Stallone's directing. Stallone is a boxing guy. He loves it. He did all the choreography for all the fight scenes. Actually, by the end of the film, it's funny. It's actually reversed injuries. Carl Weathers had a broken nose, and Stallone had bruised ribs. It's funny how their injuries have switched because they're really hitting each other.
Yeah.
And when Stallone takes over directing from 2 all the way to 5, I think.
John, actually, fun fact, John G. Avildsen came back for 5.
Oh, okay. When Stallone directs, I don't mind 5, but Stallone directs 2 through 4, and you can tell how much more he likes boxing because he puts a lot more emphasis on the boxing matches. It's almost kind of interesting how in the first one, boxing is almost treated like a montage. You see some bits and moments from all 13 rounds, but it's not like this big culmination of a fight.
Right.
I think it works, but I agree. The first time I saw it, I'm like, that's it. That's where this movie ends. And
well, I agree. When you're first time you're watching the film, that it is a bit abrupt. But I think what makes it work is Rocky 2. Because I've always treated Rocky 1 and 2 as this one overarching story. You could do away with Rocky 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if you want to call Creed 7, and just do these two. It's one, it's like this one epic about Rocky.
Actually,
from
Quentin Tarantino agrees. When he worked at a video store, on a tape he cut together Rocky 1 and 2 on one master tape, and that was Rocky to him. When he watched Rocky, he'd watch that big master tape.
This ultimate cut of Rocky. I've definitely when I'm editing here, I definitely sometimes fantasize about just getting the two together and chopping it up myself and see what would happen. There is a slight increase in quality. In production quality, so it might be a little jarring, but they do literally, Rocky ends, and then Rocky 2 immediately starts right there. And a lot of later films in the series do that. They kind of, they recap what happened the last 5 minutes of the film. And
previously on Rocky 3.
Precisely, yeah. And it gets campier and campier, but for the first 2 films, it would work pretty nice. But, I've always wondered how that would go. God, that would be a 4-hour long film.
Hey, Greg, you could probably get that plane somewhere in Atlanta.
Maybe.
If only you had some kind of connection.
Nick, it sounded like you had something you wanted to say before. I don't remember.
Probably.
Well, I was going to ask, Greg, you might find this story funny because you know my mom. Aww. Have I ever told you my mom's Rocky story?
No.
Okay, this is funny. Nick, you'll still find it enjoyable, but since Greg's actually met my mom, it might be funnier for him.
She's the best.
My mom saw Rocky 4 in theaters. And, Rocky 4 is, the very on the nose Russia versus America. Ivan Drago versus Rocky Balboa. See, you haven't even seen the Rocky movies, and you know who Ivan Drago is.
If he does, he does. It's great. I mean,
yeah, you know, and so the end of the movie when Rocky's having his big redemption fight against Drago, and is, you know, finally, because the match begins with Drago beating the shit out of Rocky, and Rocky comes back and starts throwing punches. My mom gets up in a crowded theater and goes, "Kick his ass!" She said she was mortified, and I was like, if I could go back in time to any moment, yeah, I could meet Jim Morrison, I could meet Albert Einstein. I want to go back and find you seeing Rocky IV and just experience my mom getting up and yelling in the theater. If I had a power of time travel, that's what I'd use it on.
Nice.
Amazing.
Speaking of Rocky IV, Rocky IV is like this very. Are we okay to delve into a sequel, or are you saving that for a later date? Okay.
We have no containment rules on this show. We talk about tangents are our thing.
Our Dark City episode is an hour and 40 minutes. We maybe talked about Dark City for 20 minutes.
Okay, fair enough. So what's real interesting is that after Rocky 1 and 2, you know, the series starts to get gradually sillier. I mean, like, by Rocky 3, because by Rocky 3, it's like, this didn't need to exist. But there's enough material here that we can work with. And you have Mr. T was a big hit, or I don't know if he was a big hit at the time from the A-Team, or if he was coming on the scene, but, like, you know, they had like this big component for him, and I guess enough they could bring Apollo back and have him become a supporting character, and, like,
Hulk Hogan was also in that movie.
Yeah, Thunderlips.
As Thunderlips.
Yeah, and see, it gets ridiculous because, like, it's, you know, Apollo Creed. That's an awesome name for a boxer, right? And then you go, you know, Clubber Lang. I'm like, yeah, that's still pretty. You know, that's pretty good. And then Thunderlips. It's like, all right, hold on. And then, but by Rocky IV, Rocky isn't broke anymore. He's got two Lamborghinis, a mansion, a robot. He's not.
He has a robot. Yes.
So the film is very confused in how it's like, it's clearly reaching the point of being tapped creatively, but it's also, but you're also like kind of questioning, like, is Rocky that sympathizable anymore? Like, what do we? And the only thing that's keeping it together was the you know, Cold War affairs. You know, so you had Rocky representing the West, and, you know, you got Drago representing the East. I mean, literally. You know, and having them go at it. But it's the silliest movie because if you revisit it, like, rather than having moments of character development, it's just a lot of montages. Like, they had like 3 pop songs.
It's very of its time.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting richer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the reason I think I enjoy 5, because he's broke, and he's concussed and can't fight anymore, and it's sympathetic again. So, and then, you know, Creed pretty much takes everything I liked about the first 2 movies and, you know, just has a fresh breath come in. But, yeah. Plus, the thing I think that the other films are missing that this film does so well is the photography is so beautiful in this film. I like that, you know, they use a lot of long, pondering, wide shots, and it's the way they use as much natural light as they can, or recreation of natural light. And their Steadicam stuff was really great because it was like, it's claimed to be the first film to use Steadicam, but I think there's some dispute on that. But it's one of the early Steadicam films, and
I appreciated that you could see the camera rig when he's being interviewed in the freezer, and the news reporter grabs him, and you have it's clearly this old pipe and grind tightener, you know, rig that I'm like, oh, that's fun.
I did not notice that. I need to go see that. So when she's interviewing him in the meat shop, you can see the rig? Oh my god.
You can see the camera guy, and there's somebody behind him with a shop light just holding it up above the camera.
Yep. And then I also love that, you know, Lloyd Kaufman's 2 cameos in the film. He's the drunk that Rocky carries.
That he picks him up, and I knew it going into it because you posted the thing on Facebook, and he's wearing the same outfit in both of those clips. So clearly he is the Barney of that. And
you see that clip of him, and you can't not see that it's Lloyd Kaufman because it's just a more youthful Lloyd Kaufman. And there's a couple. I wrote down some thoughts when I was watching the movie. I have a lot of lines that I really liked and resonated with me. But the one that I really just need to mention because it amuses me is in the gym later on when he's training. There's a sign that says "No kissing in the gym locker room," and I want to know what the significance of this is.
That's amazing.
Like Rocky's there taping up or maybe taking off the tape of his fist, and behind him on a pole it says "No kissing in gym locker room."
Hey, you crazy kids.
So there must have been an issue with this at some point. They had to hang a sign up for it.
You know, one thing I did notice on the topic of signs is, you know, earlier we were talking about how much he's walking around and how many layers there are to all the sets.
Yeah.
Is in a lot of his wandering around town, bopping around, you know, you can see how
gotta
much
bop back to Coney Island.
How much of boxing is his life as he just walks, but in the background of many shots are posters for matches, and it shows how important boxing is to the city. Presumably,
or even just
you know,
in his own apartment, he's got the another little on the nose reference where the boxer Rocky Marciano, which was the boxer that Stallone loosely based this film off of.
Yeah.
You know, Rocky's got his idols. Like he's got his mirror where he sees himself. He sees the pictures of himself as a kid, and then he's got his idol on the wall, which he strives to be.
Who he was, who he is, and who he hopes to be.
And you know, through a freak luck, where somehow Apollo Creed has a book full of boxers. They even talk about in the features how dumb that is, but they just need an excuse how they could have found Rocky. You know, he's the Italian stallion. That one little choice in his life is the whole reason he's where he's at. It wasn't because he was better than anyone else. Yep. He was just there.
I want to put some more. I put that in my notes, and how I want to put more thought into that is the deeper significance of the fact that this character got his shot and got his redemption story based solely on the name that he chose for himself for seemingly no reason. Like they mentioned that like, you know, I don't know, it was like 8 years ago and I just thought, that was kind of cool. I don't remember the line exactly, but that choice got him his redemption.
And some of the lines that Rocky says throughout it all like have that same vibe of, you know, it's whatever. Like, one of my favorite being, you know? It's Thanksgiving to you, but to me it's Thursday.
Right. I was going to reference that. I love it.
Or one of my favorite line in the movie. It's not, you know, why do you fight? Because I can't sing or dance. You know, that's a great line. But my favorite line in the entire movie is at the end when they're about to go out and do his fight. He's got that big fucking robe on. And he's like, what's with the robe? And he's like, Paulie gets $3,000 and I get the robe. And Mickey goes, shrewd.
Can we talk about Burgess Meredith for a little bit?
Oh, please.
How freaking, and I love him. He's in several Twilight Zone episodes, which, Michael, you know my love for the Twilight Zone.
Oh, mine too.
And, you know, it's no Clash of the Titans Burgess Meredith, but it is still an amazing Burgess Meredith.
He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this film.
Was he?
Mm-hmm. And then, like, there's little things, too. Like, as a professional wrestling fan, there's a lot of crossover between boxing and professional wrestling, so there's a lot that I get. And there's, like, little nice references that I appreciate where, like, Burgess Meredith, I think the line is, he put this vegetation on my ear. And if you don't know boxing professional wrestling, it means he's got a cauliflower ear. And it's like, you know, there's just like, that's going back to the texture. They don't choose to explain things, or, you know, it's like you have to just kind of roll with the punches. And Burgess Meredith is so good.
See what you did there. Roll with the punches.
Yeah, Burgess Meredith is so good because even he's a flawed character where, like, once Rocky gets his chance to fight, who's at his door complimenting his apartment?
I'm sorry. Take me back. He has his own need for redemption. He talks about how he was, you know, the good old days and how he's now kind of sees himself.
I love that he's got all the pictures in his pocket, too. He's like, look at how I looked in this fight.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, it's so good. It's
Greg,
usually
I feel like
a lot of Burgess's roles, you get kind of this, like, kind of goofiness to him. And I found it refreshing to see him in this really gritty, serious role.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Greg, I feel like me and Nick were kind of bombarded that part of the conversation a little bit. Do you have any thoughts?
Nah.
Especially around lines that you might like, or
Well,
Rocky.
the one I was
being
gonna
afforded a
the one,
opportunity.
The one I was gonna spun out was the Thanksgiving one. I'm like, oh, it's so timely. I'm gonna chime up. No, but you need to. I've actually.
I am gonna celebrate this. I am gonna celebrate this Thanksgiving by chucking my turkey out into the alley.
There you go. And just be mean to your sister. She'll love it.
It's not as punctual, but the last bit I think Apollo says to Rocky, right before the film ends, "Ain't gonna be no rematch. Don't want one." It's fun. I mean that may not have been as impactful then, but I think just considering how elongated things got, it makes sense now. I mean, it's just a never-ending thing. Apollo Creed versus Italian Stallion. Sounds like a damn monster movie. That's Apollo Creed. That needs to be a mock poster someone makes.
If someone makes
Tall Weathers versus this mutant stallion.
Like if someone could do like them punching that freeze frame of them punching each other from Rocky 2 or Rocky 3 over like a cityscape, but make them into like Godzilla style monsters wearing their trunks, I would frame that in my apartment. Right next to my Playboy centerfold of Marge Simpson.
Oh my. I still think while we're on Rocky 3, my favorite bit is the friendship montage of them rocking down the LA beaches, leaping into each other's arms. It's just brimming with vitamin D. I love it. It's just a hilarious kind of like a contradiction to the first two films where like these polar opposites and they're these adversaries, but now they're just like bestest buds, and that's just kind of a testament to how silly things got. But
I feel
it's a
like
great
those
bit.
choices were those montage choices were Stallone going, what worked in the first movie? Montages. And I was thinking about this too, like how the direction of the first two films is kind of consistent, and then they get more and more over the top. And I feel like this is not like an unobvious thought, but like, when those first two movies were made, Stallone had nothing. Mm-hmm. He could relate more to it. Mm-hmm. When Rocky got more rich and more powerful, Stallone did too. Mm-hmm. So he was reflecting the life that he was living. But it's getting a little existential. We're talking about films that Nick still hasn't seen. But
I think I read somewhere that I don't know how true this is, but like Stallone would make a Rocky film every time he had a career slump. So he'd have so every time there was like a low box office draw, you'd get Rocky 3, and then
let's do Rocky.
Because Rocky 5 was, he goes on record saying that like it's his least favorite film. He regrets it. He says it was creatively tapped, and it might have been like an exacerbation of that kind of tendency. I don't know if any truth to that, but I mean, him not liking Rocky 5 is true, but I don't know about the box office slump thing.
Sure,
it'd be amusing, but
unless someone else has got a topic they want to talk about, I want to talk about. We talked a little bit about how each character, even flawed, is likable to an extent, except for the fucking driver who drives around the mob boss. I wanted to talk about Joe Spinell as the mob boss. Mm-hmm. Because one, I love Joe Spinell anyways because he's in one of my all-time favorite horror movies, Maniac, which is a character study of a psychopath. But even him, being this guy who's collecting money from people that he's hiring Rock to go break people's thumbs and shit. He's still relatively likable.
I know.
Get the feeling,
with the exception of the one scene where he is talking about, hey, why didn't you break this guy's thumbs? And even then, he's doing it in a relatively pleasant way. Take the word mob boss out of that conversation, and he's just a cool dude who's looking out for his friend.
You get the feeling like he's like the cool boss at work who has to talk to you because he has to, but doesn't really want to. You get the feeling that nothing. You honestly get the feeling from Rock's boss that he's not collecting this money because it's anything personal. They owe him money. He doesn't want to lose clout. He's gonna send someone out to get you. And instead of having Rocky kill you, he's just gonna break a thumb. And I don't know. You get the vibe that if you were to run into him in the street, he'd still give and you owed him money. Or he had your thumb broken or something, he'd still give you a hug and be no hard feelings.
Yeah. Right, yeah. I think that's how it has to be.
I think it's the strangest thing about that character because they even delve with him into Rocky 2, and there doesn't seem to be any repercussions or anything that comes from that. It's he still grows into this almost seedy uncle, not seedy, like lovable but questionable uncle kind of role, and like, you know, patting him on the back, and it's like this dude was evil. Like, I mean, we don't talk about it, but there's some real sketch about it.
Are you going to be at the fight?
And then,
ringside.
And then he like, you know, and then we just don't see him ever again after Rocky 2, which likely because he passed away, unfortunately. But like, I couldn't imagine that character being dragged into like the post Rocky 2 era. I was like,
yeah,
they've just been strange.
So fan film about what happens to that character after Rocky 2?
Yeah, I'll direct it because, fun fact, Nick, Greg, you knew this. Nick, from the Darkness Theater, my lead character was based on that actor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, because it was heavily inspired by the film Maniac, which he starred in, and but no, if you go back and watch From the Darkness Theater and you see the way that they're dressed with those tinted glasses and everything, you could fucking totally see it.
Nice.
So we'll get Michael Denk to star in this film about Rocky's boss.
There you go.
What happened to him. Or we can just, re-edit From the Darkness Theater to make it about
that is what happened. He just got really into...
Use the miracle
became a horror host.
The miracle of technology, just digitally insert a CGI Joe Spinell into the movie.
Yeah.
In the role.
And
sorry, Michael. Just
can we also talk about for a second how great Rocky's sweaters were?
Yeah, totally.
Like every scene, I'm like, oh, I'd wear that sweater so hard.
Yep. After their date in particular, and he had that tight thing with the low V
and like the top, like the bottom part went up so high and everything. It was and like I love that he wore the full leather jacket too. Like he didn't like it was all about practicality with him.
I commented to my wife, who I found out is really into the Rocky movies. I had no idea. And we watched it together last night. But I commented that, he's wearing Chuck Taylors for a lot of it. And how, nowadays those are really cool. But back then, that was like a sign that you didn't have a lot of money. They were the economy shoe. So that's something that doesn't translate over time necessarily to everyone.
Yeah, and like those shoes are not good for working out.
No.
So like that's just all he could afford.
Yep.
You guys are all familiar with the filmmaker John Landis, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
His wife is a costume designer, and she's also a costume historian. And she one time said that costumes are character. And you look at the way that Rocky's dressed in any scene, you can never hear him speak, and you'd get an idea of what he's like.
Totally.
He wears the leather jacket, which kind of shows his tough side, but what he wears underneath of it is all completely practicality. The Converse at the time is just because that's what he could afford.
The sweatpants that have been worn through in spots.
That are gross as could be to look at. It's just nasty.
It's a good couch, Mm-hmm. It's a good couch.
Can we talk about his turtles, Cuff and Link?
Cuff and Link.
I think in Creed he might have new turtles. Like, I don't know. Like, does anyone remember? I remember.
I remember he had turtles.
I just vaguely remember there being an aquarium in the back. I'm gonna look at.
I think one of them was named Apollo. I thought.
Named Apollo.
Maybe that's a little on the nose, but like, yeah. I love that. Like, that's something else that adds to Rocky's character. He's got a soft side. He cares about animals, and you can tell by the granted 70s there's not a whole lot of options for pet food. It seems like he'd rather pay a little extra to get his pets better food than he'd eat.
Well, I wonder if he was always into animals or if he got into animals because of trying to spend time with Adrian in the pet shop.
That's a good question. I never thought about that.
If I remember correctly, and there's a good chance I'm not remembering correctly, I believe he bought the turtles on the first day that he saw her in there.
Yes,
that he sees her in there, goes in, and buys the turtle. Yep.
I bought the mountain, which I had to take out because it kept falling.
I get the impression that he saw her through the window, came in, and bought the turtles just to interact with her, rather than, I'm going to go buy some turtles, oh, look who's here.
You know what's great about Rocky's turtles? Is Mickey's reaction to him? What's this?
What the hell?
Have you never seen a turtle before, Mickey?
Right.
Can't
good soup.
Yeah.
Real quick, can confirm. Just Googled it. There are in fact turtles in Creed. There's a screenshot in Stallone's place. There's two.
Awesome.
I hope it's Cuff and Link. It's got to be Cuff and Link the 6th. or something.
I
don't
know,
know how long
Thank you,
Turtles
Google.
lived, but definitely not as long as the Rocky franchise. So.
I also like how Butkus, like, he had his big scene with, hey, Butkus! And, like, I don't think we ever saw the dog again.
No, that's it.
Like, I was expecting to see him running with the dog or something, and...
Another montage.
Could we talk about Butkus, the name? What?
Right.
Is that
Butkus!
Latin or something? Like, what is Butkus?
It's Butekis, I think.
I believe it's Latin for sucking up.
Kiss the butt. Butkus!
I get it.
I love the way he says his name every time. Like, and I love when Rocky comes into a room, he has to command that room. Even if it's animals that can't speak to him, you gotta say hi to a birdie, you gotta say hi to Budkit. Like, he knows everyone knows him.
Yep.
And, like, you know, he's just walking down the street doing his boxing thing and, like, hey, yo! And then, actually, his brother, Frank Stallone, who became a singer, is also in this film. He's one of the singers singing on the street corner.
Okay.
If anyone has seen the movie Staying Alive, it's that really homoerotic movie with John Travolta. It's a sequel to Saturday Night Fever.
Okay.
All the songs in that movie that Frank Stallone wrote and performed. So he's a singer. He looks just like Sly, but he's a singer.
Have either of you seen Fred Claus?
No. Should I?
It's a Vince Vaughn Christmas movie. It's ridiculous. It's not a great movie, but there's the concept is he is Santa Claus's brother, right? So he got immortality when Saint Nick did, and so he's still alive today, played by Vince Vaughn. Towards around the start of the third act, he walks into a support group for siblings of famous people. And Frank Stallone is in that group along with Bill Clinton's brother and a couple other, and they're talking about how it sucks being related to a famous person, and then he comes in and says he's Santa Claus's brother, and they're like, don't make fun of us, this is serious. It is worth it just for that scene.
Well, you know I'm a sucker for Christmas movies anyways, and
I didn't say I don't cry at the end of Fred Claus every single time. I do.
Well, originally my plan for our Christmas episode, since Nick, we both have a mutual stupid love for National Lampoons, my idea was we should just do a commentary for the movie.
There you go.
Or we could do Fred Claus. We don't know.
True.
I feel like we've touched on a lot with Rocky. Is there anything else that Nick you might have? Because I thing I like about working with you, Nick, is you went to school for English. You've got to you analyze things a little bit different than I do. Is there anything either of you want to talk about a little bit? I didn't do as much research as I normally did because of how busy. Because normally I'll read essays and everything before I sit down to talk, and I haven't had as much time lately. So I'm leaving it up to you two.
I'm typically. Oh, go ahead.
I'm good. Like, I think I've touched on everything. And matter of fact, I've now been the revelation that there was a Frank Stallone. This was new to me. I'm now just going through every Google photo of this guy.
And it sounds like such a fake name. It sounds like something in a movie of like, oh, I'm Sylvester Stallone's brother, Frank. Like, it sounds fake. Frank Stallone sounds like a fake name.
I'm sure he'll appreciate you saying that.
Frank, if you're listening, we want to get you on the show along with Eddie Munster.
Someday.
Yep.
No, usually when we're watching something off of my shame list, I tend not to take notes. Just because I tend to get engrossed in picking up on things. You need to pay more attention the first watch through, but this one I actually did take notes, but we actually hit on most of my notes in the first half of the show. So again, all in all, I surprisingly enjoyed it, or not that I didn't think I was going to enjoy it. I connected with the material much more than I thought I was going to.
And I don't know if it's going to be this way for you, but I know it's this way for me. I feel like the more you watch it, like I feel like I don't think it might not ever make like your top 10 because it's a movie you don't have as much of a connection with from your youth, but I feel like it'll rise up your list more and more the more you see it.
Nice. The other thing that I will say is I had the thought while watching it that visually it reminds me of a vinyl album cover from the 70s. Mm-hmm. like a Bob Dylan record cover or a Simon and Garfunkel album cover. with the grain and the depth of field and the
colors of the lights.
It felt like an album cover to me.
Yeah, you could screen there's for me my personal rule for if a film is a beautiful film is if I can pause it anywhere in the film and I'd screenshot it, and I feel like I could do that with this movie.
Nice.
And before we leave, I just want to point out how the other part that makes me laugh uncontrollably is when they're walking through the meat cooler for the first time, and Rocky pokes a cow, and goes moo.
And it's such an aside. There's no lead up to it. There's no.
They don't close. It was like the camera's already moved when he does it. Moo.
I think it shows how kind of simple Rocky is. That was just a funny joke to him. There was no like. It's part of that charming, simple guy thing. It was adorable.
It's a good couch.
Is it?
That's never gonna not be funny.
Yeah,
I'm always gonna hear you doing it though, Nick. It's a good couch.
So
Nice.
But no, I think had the circumstances been different with this film, because I think they talk about in the documentary that they could have had a lot more money for this film if Stallone wouldn't have been starring in it. They especially didn't want him to direct it. He directed a movie after this called Paradise Alley it's kind of a farce about professional wrestling that he wanted to direct to get a directing credit out the way before he jumped right into Rocky 2. Had it been differently, had there been a different director, had there been a different leading star, had this same script been written by someone who doesn't have a connection to it, this could have just been a whatever sports movie. But because everything kind of came together in the way it did, this little movie that is the underdog as well came out with 9 Academy Award nominations. It won 3 of them. If you give me 1 second, I can tell you which ones it actually won. I think it won Best Director, Best Film, and maybe Best Screenplay. Hold on, I got it.
Best Film, definitely. And I think Stallone was nominated but did not win for his portrayal. I think something else won.
It won Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Film Editing.
There you go.
And it was nominated for Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Original Screenplay, Best Supporting Actor for both Burgess Meredith and Burt Young as Paulie. It was nominated for Best Music, an original song, and Best Sound Design.
I think it's a little bit of a bummer to see that Talia Shire didn't win for this film, because I think she's just as
she is delight. We haven't talked enough about Talia Shire.
Yeah.
Can we
Yeah, we'll spin on a little bit about her, because I don't feel like she has gotten over the course of the franchise as much of a treatment as she did in Rocky. I think the original Rocky was her moment, but the rest of the films I felt like she was just kind of there to support Rocky, and I wish we'd seen more from her, especially when the inevitable happens and she's not there anymore, and I just kind of wish there was more there. So it just bums me out, considering her performance in this film, that there wasn't more for her. But go on.
No, I agree, and the thing I've said many times during the making of this. That sounds dumb. We've been recording this. Every time I watch this movie, I see it differently. This last time, I didn't view it as Rocky's movie. I viewed it as Adrian's movie. And granted, they do that same cliche where she's got hair in her face and glasses, and you don't see how pretty it is.
The pretty ugly girl. Yeah.
However, it worked really effectively though, because she almost seems like a different person when they change up her makeup and everything, and she gets that confidence, and she's just a gorgeous girl who's very supportive of Rocky. It takes her a little bit to understand why Rocky's doing this, but you could get the feeling that in the long run, it doesn't matter because she cares about Rocky, not necessarily what he's doing.
I would take what you said and stretch it out a little further, too, and say that for me, it wasn't a movie about Rocky as much as it was a movie about a big group of people in this kind of socioeconomic situation in this city, in this era, and kind of the issues that come up for a lot of people in this, that because Paulie had his own strong story and and Adrian had her own strong story, and Rocky, and again, Burgess Meredith, he could have just been the trainer and that's it, but in that confrontation scene in the apartment, he gets a full treatment of story, and it seemed to be a broader commentary on a large group of people versus a story about one person with a bunch of people around to support that story.
No, and they all have, I agree with what you said. They all have their moments, and, they all have this one moment that kind of defines them. When we first meet Paulie, and he's trying to comb his hair in a fucking sliver of a mirror, that just gives him you the idea of who he is. And then, there's little things that I choose that, for as boisterous and loud and sometimes on the nose this film can be, I appreciate when they choose to be silent. After that big confrontation between Mickey and Rocky, and I love that Mickey, he's halfway down the stairs and looks back up thinking, is he going to have me come back up? Or, what's he doing? There's a little bit of care that Mickey has, but then he realizes it's not going anywhere. He leaves. And when Rocky runs back out, we don't hear what they say. There's no sound. Yep. There's music, and there's which is a happy accident, said the train that came by. They weren't planning that. They hug it out, and we don't have to know what they said. We can read it through their body language.
Not only that, but you can. It's not just that you see them hug and make up. You see Rocky hug him. And then Rocky put his hand out to him and kind of force the handshake on him. That makes a difference. And for them being so small in the frame and in silhouette without any sound, I thought it was very effective how they did that. I also found that the door bit as Mickey is leaving to have worked surprisingly well. I think that was kind of could have very easily come off as slapsticky. When he goes, but because Burgess played it just right, he opens the door and I forgot my hat, and runs over, but he's so contemplative, and then Rocky pops out thinking that he had already left, and
pops back in.
He gives it the right emotional weight without it coming off as campy, oh nope, thought you were gone, close it. I was surprised at how well that played out.
And I think it's that entire scene, I think it just describes Rocky's character very well, where he holds so much in that when he finally lets it unleash, it just kind of comes out, and I think that just describes his boxing career as well. But
you see it in the first fight when it just kind of bobbing and weaving and throwing punch. Once he gets that punch to the face, just over and over again. He lets that rage out.
And then he's quick to apologize. When he kind of snapped at Adrian, he was quick to apologize and. Well, I guess the last thing I want to mention is I'm a big fan of running jokes in a movie, and I love that they kept talking about how he'd never have his nose broke, and then in the end he broke his nose.
Yeah, the payoff was worth it.
I almost wish it would have been at the end of the movie, someone would have been like, "How's your nose? Still not broke."
Nothing.
Are you available for maybe 10 minutes or so to help us load some stuff?
In about 10 minutes, that will be. Does that work?
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Well, that was perfect time. That was perfect timing.
Look at that.
All right. I guess that means we'll have to wrap this up for the week. Nick, before we go, since our next episode is going to be deep in Christmas season, do you have any thoughts of what we should do for our Christmas episode, which also might be right around our anniversary episode?
Oh, a big Christmas anniversary blowout.
Yeah, because last year we did Black Christmas and The Family Stone, which is a weird double feature.
Yeah,
but it was fun.
Christmas is really all that tied those two things together.
I got complaints about the trailer for Black Christmas because it's not very descriptive and it's just a lot of moaning.
It's a lot of noise.
Yeah,
doesn't play great in the podcast. When I was listening to that edit, I'm like, okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we mentioned Fred Claus, and we can keep it on the table, though. Again, it's not an amazing movie.
It's something. I don't know. I just feel like we should do
it's
something.
A jumping off point, but yeah, we'll figure something festive out.
All right, and Greg, thanks for taking some time out of your day to come talk Rocky with us.
Yeah. No problem. It was awesome.
I don't know if it's just because I was super motivated or what it was, but I like to believe that you kept us on topic today because I don't think we had really any tangents.
We talked about Rocky almost the entire time.
That's
a first for us.
I guess the slight exception is when we talked about Rocky sequels. levels, but
Sure, yeah.
But it's all it's all relative, you know. So.
In the spirit of the franchise.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
All right.
Staying on topic now.
I did talk about Fred Claus for a couple minutes.
It's all right. It was tied into Frank Stallone, so it all worked. But no, this was I'd say this every episode. This is a great episode. I really liked it. I'm probably gonna enjoy it even more after re-listening to it.
Yeah. Just like you do with Rocky.
Yep. I've got to find time to edit this with it being Thanksgiving.
Right.
But, first world problems. Am I right?
Yep.
Like, the show's doing well. As always, guys, we really appreciate any ratings, reviews. And please hit that subscribe button so that we know that you're listening. I'm trying to work it out with Vinegar Syndrome, that if we can prove that we've got a decent amount of listeners, I can get us a promo code so that way you guys can get a couple bucks knocked off your movies. I just want to, I need to prove that we've got people who are going to do it. And then we're also planning a contest in the future. I'm still working it out, but
it's
coming. Yes! I can tell you at least what the prizes are going to be. Prize will be 2 DVDs, one of my collection of short films, and then you get a copy of Nick's film Normal, his feature film that I have talked about on almost every single episode.
Should we throw in a copy of my equally mediocre novel?
If you have copies to throw in.
I do. I'd be
Amanda
willing to do
liked
that.
your book. Amanda liked your book. She read it right after she bought it from you.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I'll throw that in too.
And Greg, if you can somehow get it planned in Atlanta where you can show Rocky 1 and 2 back to back, I might fly in for that.
I've got a couch. It's a little short. It might be uncomfortable, but you can sleep on it.
It's all right.
It's a good couch.
I sleep on
it's
it
a good
sometimes,
couch.
and I wake up feeling terrible, but it's a couch. All right.
It needs more newspapers and empty beer bottles.
There you go.
Not only will I fly out, but we'll have a good time and, find a way to show Rocky 1 and 2 back to back. It'll be great. But I think Nick's being summoned.
I'm being paged, yeah.
Cool.
This was great.
All right, cool.
All right, I think that's it for this week, guys. Thanks for listening. It's been real.
We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so I've got a couple questions. I don't want to keep you for too long, but as we talked about like a week ago, I want to talk about you working on Rocky and more importantly your relationship with John Avildsen.
Sure.
All right, I don't know how much. I don't think I've told you a whole lot about how the show works. The podcast that I operate is called the Shame List Picture Show, and how it works is being my co-host. We've noticed in our time as filmmakers that you just occasionally run to movies you haven't seen. And when you get kind of cornered into having to talk about it, you if people are anything like me, you have like this sense of guilt and shame that you haven't seen it, so you make up and say that you've seen it and whatnot. So we started this show as a way to talk about things that we haven't seen. But with this show, my co-host Nick had never seen Rocky, so we use it as an excuse to talk about it. And I guess let's start off with a little bit where so before you had started Trauma Entertainment, you were working on various productions. Am I right with that?
I was, yeah. Well, I made a couple of movies. Movies.
Yeah, you made some right out of college, but.
I made them in college.
I'm trying to remember if I can remember the titles. The Battle of Love's Return being one of them.
That one, I made after college, right after college.
Oh, okay. My mistake.
I used some of the Warhol people I met and all that stuff. When I was in college, I hung around New York a lot. So, New Haven, where Yale is only an hour and a half. So I'd spend more time in New York than at Yale. And I used a lot of the people I knew from New York in my Battle of Love's Return. But the other one, The Girl Who Returned, was a feature-length film at Yale that I did at Yale. Black and white with a Bolex, and it's like a silent film, and it's unwatchable.
But yet, it's on YouTube through Trauma Movies.
The Trauma people did it just to humiliate me.
I think you have gone on record many times in saying how much you don't like that picture very much.
Well, no, I like it, but it's unwatchable. For me, it's wonderful. It's very personal, but it's a silent movie, basically. It's very hard to watch. And it's black and white and no sync sound. And it's pretty.
I appreciate it. When I was in film school, I started on Bolex as well. We weren't able to sync sound, so I appreciate it because I know how much of a pain in the ass that can be.
Yeah. Well, you're in the minority.
So,
but the one thing I learned, I'm already wasting your time.
Oh, don't worry about it.
There were some valuable lessons in doing all that kind of stuff because with The Girl Who Returned, we actually charged admission. And nobody asked for their money back. We played it at probably 15 different Ivy League, and there were colleges around that had film societies that corresponded with our film society. So I got to play it at Harvard and a few other places. And they never, as bad as it was, they never asked for their money back. That's a very valuable lesson. Also, the poster for The Girl Who Returned looked kind of sexy. It had the story is about a female athlete and she's a runner, and there was a scene where she's just exhausted and she's lying on her back on the ground. And she happened to have a nice body, and she's in a tight T-shirt, and her front pillows are clearly there under the T-shirt, and that was the poster that went around the Yale campus, and the competition for us that night was, I think it was a movie. I think it was Moonrise by Borzage, Frank Borzage, which is a masterpiece. It's a film noir kind of masterpiece. Nobody showed up for that. 3 people showed up for that because the poster just had the name Moonrise and the director. Maybe it had whoever was in it. But The Girl Who Returned had that kind of sexy photograph. And we were full. So I learned about advertising. And I learned about the poster. Put an attractive person on the poster.
It works. It's the reason I ended up buying sugar cookies is because, well, one, I saw your name on it, and then it's like, this is kind of a sexy poster. And that's how I want a copy of sugar cookies in my collection.
Well, I hope you liked it. It's supposed to be, sugar cookies is supposed to be our version of Vertigo, Hitchcock's Vertigo. Except we made it a lesbian movie. It's too slow. I should have directed it. I regret that Oliver Stone and I raised all the money. And Oliver kept telling me, you should direct it. You don't let this guy do it. He's fucking it up. And indeed, he didn't fuck it up. He made a good movie, but it's too slow and pretentious.
It's a different type of, for lack of a better term, it's very European.
Well, that was his thing. Ted Gershuni had made a movie in Europe called Kemek, Kemek, which was like watching paint dry. But again, on a certain level, it was, I loved Bresson. I just wrote a paper on Mouchette for a French book, Mouchette. But it's very slow going, and Bresson is a master. He's one of the greats of all time. But Gershuni was not, and we managed to make an X-rated movie that that we lost money on. That was pretty amazing. Pretty hard to do that in those days. But
well,
we did it.
It's finding its audience now.
I mean, it's a good movie. It's a very good movie, but it's not, it's not your typical exploitation film.
I agree.
But I think it could have still been a great tribute to Vertigo, a great fromage to Vertigo, without being boring. And unfortunately, I think Ted made it boring.
But let's talk a little bit about Rocky. So how did you get involved with Rocky, and was it because of John Avildsen, or was it other ways?
I took acid when I was a senior at Yale. I had 2 job opportunities. One in California on a Hollywood movie, The Owl and the Pussycat, starring Barbra Streisand. I was offered a production assistant job on that. And I had another offer in New York from a crappy little company called Canon. And because I had bought into I speak fluent French, And the Yale Film Society had a lot of these magazines, the Cahiers du Cinéma, Notebook of Cinema, which was written by people like Jean-Luc Godard and Claude Chabrol, and they were journalists, critics moving into making their own damn movies. And I bought into this auteur theory that the French after World War II came up with, which was that the director of the movie should be it's all about the director. It's the director's event, and that the director's heart and soul and mind should be in the movie. It shouldn't be a team effort. It's not a team effort. Otherwise, it's not art. It's kind of that philosophy that it must be a product of the heart and soul and mind of the film director. And I bought into all that. So when I was on, I took acid and blah blah blah, and Canon, the shitty little company, was running some ads in the New York Times, and I sort of got a kick out of them, and I decided to stay in New York and be an auteur and work for the shitty little independent company, and they were making garbage for the most part, but they had a script called The Gap, and while I was basically rewinding film and doing messenger jobs, and I could talk about that experience for quite a while. But the Gap was a very poorly written treatment or script, I don't recall, about the generation gap, and it was going to have a bit of R-rated, mild softcore sex in it, and it stunk. Avildsen was working at Avildsen was working at Canon on a movie called Guess What I Learned at School, which Canon was going to distribute. And he was editing it. And I happened to cross paths with him, and I did some rewinding and whatever he needed. I was like a third assistant editor. And then they decided to put him on The Gap, rather. It was called The Gap, and Avildsen hated it, and he hired Norman Wexler, with whom he had worked at the ad agency that they worked, and they wrote a really good script. They wrote Joe, which was terrific, and I somehow got myself to the set. I think they had a problem with people, with the lazy people or something. And anyway, Avildsen needed somebody reliable, so he asked me he told the producers to send Lloyd. So I got to be it was the first time I was on a professional set. Up until that point, I was either making Battle of Love's Return or working on this Canon's. They would import these kind of slightly sexy European movies, and then they would insert scenes. So they bought a Western, and I can't remember what it was. It had the word wicked in it. But George Norris and Billy Sachs and I would go off and shoot kind of softcore insert sex scenes to go in there. So that was the only set I had been on, really, other than my own. And Avildsen got me onto his set, and the first day I showed up, he was setting up I think it was the first, I don't know if it was the first day of shooting, but no, actually, I was on that film before that, but I wasn't going to be on the set. I was they wanted me in the office because I could read and write, and I could do stuff that the other production assistants couldn't.
Yeah.
And so I got to, I wasn't allowed to go to the set. But Avildsen, something happened, they got into trouble, or the other ones didn't do anything, or blah, blah, blah. So I got to go out there and be on the set. But I was involved in the pre-production because Avildsen, I was actually, the more I think about it, the more I was very much involved in pre-production. So I must have been on the set before then. But anyway, I don't remember. But what I do remember, Michael, is that I was assigned to take, what's his name? Tierney. What's his first name? Lionel Tierney? He was in
Oh, yes. Give me 1 second. I can tell you what his name is. I'm blanking at the moment.
Tierney's his last name. He was in a very good he was in one of those great. I mean, he's in a lot of good movies. He was in Reservoir Dogs for sure. But anyway, John wanted Peter Boyle. And
Lawrence Tierney. Sorry, Lawrence Tierney.
Lawrence Tierney. I was at the if I remember correctly, and I think I do, I was at the audition with John when he auditioned Peter Boyle, and John fell in love with him, and Boyle improvised. The nice thing about Avildsen, if you were interested, if you loved movies, he'd let you hang out, as long as you were doing your work. So I'd be there till midnight, 2 a.m. if it was necessary. But he let me be in on some of the auditions, and Boyle did this amazing improvisation, and he read one of the lines that Wexler had written, and he added something about, and I ain't no faggot, or I ain't no queer, or whatever it was. In those days, 1969 or 70, that was a pretty dangerous improv, and just the idea of improving, at least to my young ears, was and soul was kind of a gutsy thing, because most of the actors did not improv. They just read the lines and did the best they could. And this guy, he really was Joe. He was great, and the bosses didn't want it. They wanted Tierney, Lawrence Tierney. So we're taking Tierney up to Alexander's, a cheapo department store across the street from Bloomingdale's. Alexander's on the escalator. I think it was Alexander's, and I suddenly feel something tapping my blue jean leg, and I look down, and the guy's pissing on me, and that was the end of Lawrence Tierney. They fired him, and they took Peter Boyle, even though they were convinced that Peter Boyle was too young to be a veteran of World War II, or I think that was the issue. I think he was it was a construction worker against the hippies. That was the theme that they wanted to deal with, and have some sex in it. And Avildsen and Wexler wrote this amazing script that was just brilliant. And then we got Boyle. We got Peter Boyle, and Peter Boyle was amazing. And Susan Sarandon's first part. It was her first movie. And I think I get killed in that one at the end. I think I'm one of the hippies that they shoot. Oops, spoiler alert. Anyway, it's a great movie. It's so nobody knows about it, but it got an Oscar nomination for Best Screenplay. $150,000 budget. Can you imagine? A New York shot, $150,000 budget with no stars getting a Oscar nomination for Best Screenplay?
That's insane.
It's a different world today. No, never happened today. It would never happen today.
No, it would not.
And the first day that I remember, I must have been on the set before then, but the first day I remember being on the set of Avildsen's movie, he was shooting a scene through a furnace. So I guess Joe wasn't a construction worker. He must have been something else. Again, I haven't seen the movie for a long time. But he was shooting, Joe was working in a place with a furnace. And John had set up this really great shot, kind of looking through the furnace. And I, right then and there, I said, hey, this guy is a filmmaker. This is no schlocko guy. This is serious stuff. And I went to put my eye to the camera, and some union guy, it was a junior, it wasn't even IA, it wasn't the big union, it was the junior union, NAPIT, and some guy, you get away from that, you're not in the union, that kind of thing. I was like, whoa, I thought I had broken something. It was just because I wasn't in the union, so I wasn't allowed to look through the camera. And of course, it is rather unprofessional for a production assistant to come up to the camera, even on my set. Even on my sets, it's a little, if they ask permission first, okay. But I just went and looked through. And at any rate, I decided then to attach myself to Avildsen, because I had seen Guess What I Learned at School, or at least what they were working on. It was really interesting. Guess What I Learned at School today. It was not your crappy exploitation film. It was really good. And at any rate, I decided to attach myself to Avildsen and learn from him. I remember going over to his house, and I made him sit through Battle of Love's Return. That's what a good guy he was. He and I think his wife too, and maybe one of his kids. I can't remember, but he and his wife sat through Battle of Love's Return, he was great. And the fact that I was so eager and it was not there was never any quitting time for me. I would stay till 3 a.m. if necessary, and so then we kept in touch, or I kept in touch, and I quit Canon, and started getting involved in stuff I wanted to do. I wrote a script with Stan Lee. And meanwhile, I worked for John Avildsen for free. I did errands for him and Xeroxing projects he was trying to get going. And when he got his next gig, he made me assistant director. I had no idea I didn't even know what assistant director did other than what I saw on Joe, but I certainly couldn't run a set. So I would, the first part of it was, I was the casting guy. At the same time on Cry Uncle as being assistant director. And then I was very much in charge of helping secure, somehow I got involved. They needed this big boat, it was bigger than a yacht. It was like a cruise line, went bankrupt and got parked in New York and got parking tickets. It was in the papers because they couldn't pay for the pier. So it would get parking tickets or the equivalent thereof. And the producer of Cry Uncle, David Disick, I think he said, let's go get that and have the bad guy, the rich guy, live on that. How much more interesting is that than just giving him a Scarsdale mansion or whatever they usually do?
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of, I think I was involved with the guy who owned the yacht to try to convince him to, and I looked pretty shitty in those days. I had a beard and my clothing was, hippie style. And so, they knew we didn't have a lot of money. And, but by the end of it, I was production manager because the production manager turned out to be a fool. And there's so many hacks in this business and lazy people and stupid people. So from being cleaning the toilets, I was production manager. Yeah, production manager. And also I raised a little money for that movie. So I was in on the I was a limited partner. So I got to be inside on the producing side. I got to be a little bit inside. And obviously Avildsen, he and I became good buddies, and I have a pretty good cameo as a stoned hippie in that an LSD stoned hippie in Cry Uncle, and it's a great film. It's hilarious, and he did the same thing. Avildsen did the same thing with that movie. Lee Hessel, the boss, bought a pulpy detective novel that was kind of his plan was to turn it into a softcore exploitation film, and Avildsen, Joe, I don't think Joe had hit yet, and I don't believe Joe had hit yet. So he hired Avildsen, who had made, as I mentioned, some other movies, including a movie that played on 42nd Street called Turn On to Love. It was played in a sex house on 42nd Street. And in those days, those houses only played softcore movies. But the movie was so profound that the guy who reviewed Turn On to Love for the New York Times, and in those days they reviewed pretty much everything, he said there really wasn't enough sex in the movie or something. He liked the movie. Howard Thompson was the critic's name. At any rate, but it was 42nd Street, so Hessel hired John on to. I felt John was the right guy, and John had 5 or 6 movies under his belt, and Hessel let John totally revamp Cry Uncle. Instead of a shitty detective story, John hired David Odell, again, a very new, young, I don't think he had done very much, to rewrite. and they wrote this incredible, hilarious. Instead of the detective being kind of a low grade James Bond, I think it was a kind of a second rate James Bond type novel. It was called, oh man, I can probably remember. It may come back to me. Love Me Deadly, maybe.
Okay.
Something. It was a crappy book, a pulpy airplane book, and it was not a bestseller. It was, a real kind of. In those days, there were thousands of books. Not since it was, those days was like the library of Hammurabi. Everywhere, the bookstores everywhere. You used to browse in the paperback bookstores. Later, you would browse in the VHS video stores.
Yeah.
So Avildsen took this thing. He got David Odell. They, instead of a good-looking James Bond clone, they hired Alan Garfield, this fat, balding detective guy, and they hired Madeleine LaRue, who was this very strange-looking woman from. She looked like some kind of a bird. And she had this sort of some kind of. She sounds like Madonna on a little bit like Madonna with the fake English accent, and she was very good, but she was different. She was very different, and they made this thing their own. And the Cry Uncle is hilarious. They changed it into instead of trying to copy James Bond, they made it into a satire of film noir. Cry Uncle was, not instead of Cry Terror, those movies like Terror, Cry this, they did Cry Uncle. It's funny. It's hilarious. And Lee Hessel, to his credit, Lee Hessel was a distributor who had a company called Cambist, Cambist, and he distributed Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS, and he would import Swedish minks. Again, these softcore kind of movies, and he would also jazz them up sometimes. When porn came in, he would insert a little bit of porn, just enough so he wouldn't get busted. Although, Cry Uncle got busted in Pittsburgh. It actually got busted. Can you imagine? It got busted.
Really?
It's basically a soft R. It got actually busted. But that's the way it was in the early 70s. And it was a huge hit, Cry Uncle. It was huge. And Lee Hessel, good for him, that he took a risk and let John Avildsen make his own damn movie. And it's a hilarious movie and was a huge hit. And Cry Uncle is what led to Michael Herz. I don't know that I would be partners with Michael Herz if Michael Herz's wife did not take her mother to see Cry Uncle and put her thumb over the X rating in the newspaper ads. And they went to see it, and I had a full screen credit, of course, and I would always trade money for credit. I would take a small salary in return for getting a bigger credit, and so I had the full screen credit, and they saw that. And Michael had gone to camp with my brother, and when he went to Yale, he looked me. He was 2 years younger than I, so he looked me up at Yale because my brother said to. But I had a TV that Michael wanted to watch. Otherwise, I'm sure he would never have talked to me. But so he had to kind of endure me while he was watching TV. They didn't have, not too many people had televisions in their rooms at Yale in those days, and I had this black and white thing that you had to sort of smash it to get it to stop. Where the images keep moving up, you had to smash the top of it, and then the image would stay stable. Otherwise, it kept slipping, and it was shitty black and white portable TV. But then Michael didn't want. He was at law school, and he didn't want to be a lawyer when Maris, his wife and mother, saw Cry Uncle, and. So she suggested to Michael, she said, hey, look, Lloyd's got this big credit here in the Cry Uncle. It was a very funny movie. And then Michael ruined it. He started helping, and he decided to throw in with me, and a second promising life was therefore ruined. Back to John G. Avildsen, but you can see how important John G. Avildsen is to my life and to my career.
No, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
When John then gets the script for Rocky, I assume he brings you on from that. What did you think about the script when you first read it? What did you think about Stallone? Because Stallone has gone on record to say that he wrote this movie so he had something to play because he could only get jobs playing thugs and playing heavies. So he wanted to essentially make a role of a thug or a heavy with a heart. So I assume he brought you on. What did you think about it? Because,
Avildsen, here's the problem. They had a problem. The big lesson I took from Avildsen, Joe and Cry Uncle, is that the location is so important. That ship that the bad guy's on as his headquarters in Cry Uncle, and there were some other wonderful, genuine locations. And of course, Joe, we shot in a real pharmacy when Susan, what's her name, Sarandon flips out. She was a teenager. But she was great. We shot in real locations. The hippie house was up in Nyack, New York, or somewhere in there, and it was snowy, and it was a derelict house. But we went in and we painted the walls kind of hippie style, and put a lot of we propped it with mattresses, and I learned so much about how the location can become a character. So Stallone had his heart set on shoot, and John, of course, was a big location person also. They had their heart set on shooting in Philadelphia. But because Stallone insisted on being in the movie, the producers, a United Artists and the producers only had $1 million for the movie in 1978 or whenever it was. And so they wanted to shoot it all in California and fake the locations for Philadelphia, pretend that Los Angeles was Philadelphia. And that doesn't work very often. American Hot Wax, I don't know if you've seen American Hot Wax about the disc jockey.
I have not.
It could have been good. They play it in, it's got a good director too, but they play LA for New York, and it just, even if you don't know that New York, you can feel that it isn't right.
Yeah.
You can feel when it's not the right location, when it's not real. So Avildsen had the idea. Let's get Lloyd and Troma to handle the Philadelphia shoot and do it non-union under the radar, because the bosses couldn't afford to bring union crew to Philadelphia and shoot. It's much more expensive for them to bring the union to New York. And New York in those days, my wife had not been the film commissioner for 20 years. So the New York was a much more not as film friendly as, and the whole East, Philadelphia didn't have a film commission. There wasn't this the incentives that they give you now. I don't know if Pennsylvania has one, but some of these states, I'm sure you know better than I, some of the states will give you back New York gives you a third of your budget below the line back in cash. And my wife wrote that legislation, Pat. And so it was a much bigger deal to film outside of Los Angeles in those days, and much more expensive, because the unions, they didn't have crews in Philadelphia for the quality that the big shots thought they needed. And to bring a DP and a 50-person crew from LA to Philadelphia, the union requires first-class hotel, certain types of airplanes, certain types of food, all that bullshit, and they couldn't afford it. So Avildsen had the bright idea, told Stallone, hey, there's this guy I work with, he's smart, and let's shoot, we'll get them to shoot in, Troma style in Philadelphia. So Avildsen had me go to Philadelphia ahead of time and secure all the locations and places to stay, and basically production manage, I suppose you'd call it, line produce, and then we hired not everybody, but most of the crew were Cry Uncle people that John Avildsen knew and trusted, and Ralph Boda was the guy who did the DP work in Philadelphia. and he was the lighting guy on the gaffer on Cry Uncle, and Joe, as a matter of fact, but he had not been a DP. But Avildsen made him DP on the Philadelphia stuff, which looks fantastic, and the strategy was we would film there for as long as we could until the union found out, and then they'd go. So we got about 8 days of filming, and obviously imagine what that movie would be like without the fruit market, running through the fruit market, or the pet store, or the exterior of the gym, or the South Philly shots, or Pat's Steaks, or most of all the running up those stairs of the museum. I mean, imagine if they had gone and just faked it. Rocky wouldn't have been the Rocky you see today.
No, exactly. And on the show, we actually talk about how I mentioned how the thing I like so much about Rocky is it's got texture, and because of these real locations and the lower film stock you guys shot on, and this guerrilla style, it all translates to the film. And it's why I think that the original Rocky is the best out of the franchise, because there's this quality to it that doesn't feel fake, it doesn't feel overproduced. And even sets that feel like, yeah, this could probably be a set. Like, for example, Rocky's apartment feel real. They feel lived in. And it feels... Yeah, it just feels legitimate.
I think Rocky's apartment, where... I think that was real. Is that where Paulie goes nuts and smashes things?
That was a house. I'm talking like Rocky's actual apartment where he has the argument with Mickey. It could have been a real apartment, but just, well, I figured because the small...
That was L.A. I don't remember that in Philadelphia. But in any event, how brilliant was it? And of course, the Teamsters found out about it and after 8 days, and they all went back to L.A., and I stayed in New York to get my legs broken. And now what's interesting is that Michael Hers and Maris, his beautiful wife, were in our editing room, and we would the dailies would be synced up by them. They synced up the dailies, and then the dailies. You know what dailies are,
yeah,
right?
Of course.
Picture and sound they're on different reels. They're not. It's not like video. You have to sync. Well, video you have to sync up too, actually. Digital.
Yeah, now you do.
But anyway, they were syncing it up and listening to. Bozo, your bupkas, what the right? What? And Michael was like, "What the fuck is this?" And and then I had to project. The stuff would come back to Philadelphia, and I had to. We had a portable. We rented a portable 35 millimeter dual system projector, and I'd have to string the thing up. And, chart off the two producers would be there, Stallone, Burgess Meredith, the actors who, I think Avildsen let the actors see the dailies. I can't remember. But the point is that there'd be people, who were much more important than I was. And my hands would be trembling as I'm making sure the loop and 35 millimeter in a projector, especially a dual system, it breaks constantly. And it never broke. But I was so nervous about those projections. I was nervous about everything, fucking getting the meals. We couldn't have a honey wagon. So, we ate pizza. We had to get the street. John would say, we need to get the streets wet. And I'd say, John, well, how are we going to do that? Get the people in the neighborhood. He was right. We got the people in the neighborhood. I went door to door. I squirted and asked them, can you please squirt this? We're making a movie. And it was the people in South Philly were so sweet. They're the nicest people in the world. There was a little bit of danger, but for the most part, they were nice, absolutely lovely, generous people, and they really cooperated with us. And we also had a guy who was a buddy of Mayor Rizzo who helped us, helped me at least, make friends with sort of the community leaders or whoever were the ones that might come and want more. He explained to Pat's Steaks or some of the locations that Avildsen liked that we're legitimate movie people, and it's not because it's a pretty bad neighborhood, South Philly, at least those days. So and it was amazing. Now and again, I don't mean to bore you, but we the people that work at Troma are avid Troma fans, and one of our guys, Matt Mangerides, who worked here for about 5 years. He would go down in the basement of the Troma building and he would rummage through our stuff just to see what's there. Because we're 30. When he was here, we were 40 years old, and he found my home movies from Rocky. I don't even remember shooting them, but I shot the Steadicam. That was Rocky was either the first or the second movie to use the Steadicam, and I actually did behind the scenes, so you see how we used the Steadicam. I've got the shots of Rocky running up those stairs at the museum, and everybody thinks it's Steadicam. It's actually, we shot it from baby legs. I shot John shooting from he did his own camera work. The Avildsen's mounted right on himself. The director is strapped to the front of the car with his camera facing through the window to film Stallone driving the car, or whoever the actor was, Joe Spinell. The actors were driving their own vehicle with Avildsen strapped, rope onto the front of the. That's what we do at Troma. We have the actors drive, and I shoot that way, and you see it in my home movies. And I sent them out to Avildsen, and he reduced them to about 15 minutes, and then he and I wrote a script, and we did a commentary track out at Fox. And it's great stuff. You should see it.
I've seen it. It's on the Blu-ray. It's fantastic.
Good. It's also on the Troma channel on YouTube, and it's free. You can go on Troma YouTube channel, and we've got about 300 movies there, plus a lot of my Make Your Own Damn Movie lessons. And that piece we did for Avildsen, the piece that Avildsen and I did, the commentary, is there, and it's very interesting, and it's also a lot of fun. It's pretty funny, and he's great. He's great. But the little side note, we both got takedown notices from Fox or from somebody when we put that my footage, which I gave to Fox for free. We had lawyers take it. They took down Avildsen and me on the internet. And Avildsen, I said, "Fuck it, I'm not going to bother. I don't care."
Yeah.
But Avildsen, it took him some time, but he finally got them to reverse it.
So I got two more things for you before I let you go, because I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Avildsen, by the way, there's a very good documentary about John G. Avildsen called The King of the Underdogs. I'm in it a bit, and I look pretty intelligent, come to think of it. It's a damn good documentary. I definitely think you should see it. And Avildsen narrates a lot of it, so you really get his personality and what a great guy he was.
That's great. So the two things I want to ask from you before I have you go.
Well, wait a minute. There's more Avildsen. Okay. Slow dance. I made Avildsen put me in Cry Uncle, and then he brought me on to Saturday Night Fever, but he got kicked off, but I'm in the film, and then he put me in Rocky, of course.
Yep.
But I made him do that. I wanted that experience of being in the movies.
And Stallone picked you up and brought you into the.
But I learned again from that. I don't think any director would have given me the kind of cameo that he gave me in Slow Dancing in the Big City, and I really got a taste of what it was like to be an actor under the lights with the crew standing around and staring at you and all that, and then having to act and hit your marks and not put a shadow on the other. I never. And up until we did Slow Dancing in the Big City, I used to fight with the actors. I didn't get it. I didn't understand why they're so fucked up. And ever since then, I've been friends with the actors. It's that really, I really understood the pressure they're under, and also having shooting. Well, John tried to shoot in continuity. He would try to shoot beginning, middle, and end. He would try to shoot in sequence as much as possible, and that was also a big concept for me because I don't have to do the union thing, if you shoot Screen Actors Guild and you use somebody on Monday and you use them again on Friday, and they're just sitting around the set picking their nose for the rest of the week, you got to pay for those days, the unused days. Even if they're not sitting around the set, I think you still have to pay them for the intervening time. Yep. Whereas I can shoot in sequence, right? I can do that because I'm not union. They're all young, and this is their big break. So that's how we have people living. Everybody lives together when we make a movie. And even though somebody may not work for 4 days, they'll sit and enjoy themselves wherever we're living and enjoy their air mattress and the delicious cheese sandwiches until they're called to the set. But how cool that I can shoot in sequence, because I can rewrite and change, and that's what Avildsen taught me. He told me, try to shoot as much as you can in sequence, because you can make changes. And if you shoot the end of the movie first, you're locked in. That's what Trey Parker, when he put me in Orgasmo, I'm in the very, very last movie, the last scene. And so he had and that did impress me also, because Orgasmo is not an expensive film, and Trey had the confidence to shoot the end first. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he had total confidence that he would get what he wanted from the actors and blah, blah, blah. But I don't have that confidence, and I also don't know what I'm doing, and I like to improvise, and I fight with people on set, and I've had actors walk off, or I've had to get rid of actors. I've had to get rid of them if they act up. If they're assholes, you got to get rid of them and then rewrite. But if you shoot out of sequence, you don't have that luxury, do you? And if you have a real shithead, a cancer on the presidency, you're stuck, or you have to reshoot. So Avildsen really, the more I talk, the more he was a major, major, major influence in every regard.
That's great to hear. And like I said, I don't want to keep you very...
Well, we should talk about Saturday Night Fever, because I guarantee you, unless you already know, your listeners probably want to know, well, wait a minute, what happened with Saturday Night Fever? Avildsen was on it? He's not on it?
Because, I don't know this story. I didn't know that Avildsen was on Saturday Night Fever originally. This is news to me.
You've done so much for me and for Trauma that I want to make sure you have good material and you can edit out what you don't like. But here's what happened. Avildsen did the same thing with Saturday Night Fever that he always does. He took a very nice newspaper article, a magazine article, which came out of New York Magazine. And it was kind of a famous article when it came out, about the disco, about whatever his name was in the movie, Tony Manero, dance, this kid who would go out to the discos and just dance, and the disco scene and all that stuff. And Avildsen brought back his buddy Norman Wexler to write the script. And what a great script it was. And by the way, on Rocky, I read the script. I loved it. And my mother-in-law read it way before they started shooting, before they even one frame, 1/24th of a second went through the 1/24th of a second frame went through the camera. My mother-in-law said Rocky's going to be the next Marty, and it far exceeded Marty in terms of film history. But she knew it. She knew it. I knew it. I knew it was great. But she knew it was going to be a major, major film. She said it. And she wasn't a film person. She was a little old lady a very nice lady living in North Carolina. So anyway, with Saturday Night Fever, John brought me on because it's a location movie. And I know how to, I'm a good people person. But I had never set foot in Brooklyn in my life. Maybe my dad took me to see the Dodgers in Ebbets Field. I have some vague recollection. Maybe. I don't even think. Maybe we went there. Maybe. So Edith Gottlieb, the same woman who went to see Cry Uncle with her daughter, who got me Michael, is the beginning of Michael and Lloyd as Troma. She was my how do you say it? The consultant, technical advisor on Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. We didn't have. I had to go out and get these locations, and we didn't have GPS. There was no MapQuest. There was a car rental. That was it, and you had to write down the directions. And I had no idea what the hell I was doing, and. But bit by bit, I found places that Avildsen liked, and he had a thing in his head that he wanted to film on a dance floor that lit up, because the 2001 misspelled Odyssey, which was misspelled. They misspelled the word on the building. The word Odyssey is misspelled. The 2001 Odyssey it was just a warehouse. It was ugly. It was totally not. So he had this idea to do a light up dance floor, and we searched all over the fucking in pre-production. John Travolta, Pat, my wife, and I would go out to around midnight. We'd go at midnight when the discos got going, and or 11, whenever, late. And we went to see every discotheque in the New York area. And we found one called the Figaro that had a wall that looked like sort of a xylophone that lit up with different colors, keys. And but they didn't want us to film there or something. It didn't work or something. So the plan was then to go back to the real Odyssey, but make the floor and put it there. So Avildsen was responsible for that. That was his thing. But we'd go to each of these discotheques, and John was learning to dance, so he'd go and dance. And my wife likes dancing, so she would dance with John Travolta, rather.
Wow.
Travolta was learning to dance. JoJo, JoJo. It was famous choreographer was teaching, and John wanted Jacques d'Amboise. By the way, John wanted Jacques d'Amboise. I could talk for hours on this stuff. I remember it so fucking vividly. But anyway, so Pat and Travolta would go dancing in the discos, and I was very jealous because I wanted to dance with John Travolta, but fate did not permit that. And then by this time, Avildsen and I were pretty close friends, and in fact, John Avildsen came up with the idea of the Trauma Team. Because I said to John, I don't want to say a film by Lloyd Kaufman. I don't want to do the. He said, "Why don't you call it the Trauma Team? Make it the Trauma Team." And
so he's responsible for that.
He also gave me advice that I didn't follow, and I should have. The title, To Terror Firmer. He said that was a stupid title because nobody would get the jeu de mots. Nobody would get the wordplay that Terror Firmer is a play on terra firma. And Avildsen said, no, nobody knows what terra firma. You may have gone to Latin school, but nobody else did. And boy, was he right. That was a disaster, that title. If the movie didn't have that title, it would have done a lot better. Now it's profitable because it's word of mouth. But back then, there was nobody knew what to. Yeah, and when you would call a theater to book it or a booker, they couldn't understand it over the phone. Terra firma. Well, so I mean, he really knew what he was doing. But what happened there was he started having disagreements with Stigwood, the producer, the big producer, and Stigwood was Mr. Bee Gees. He was the manager or the producer of the Bee Gees. He owned Rhino Records, and he owned other. He was a big deal, huge, and so there were disputes. And I think I vaguely heard there might have been a dispute about the Bee Gees music, but that's what I always thought was the final straw that where Avildsen got fired. But Avildsen told me that he got fired because he was boffing the girlfriend of the boyfriend of Robert Stigwood.
Oh,
and. He told me that was why he got fired. And so who knows what the real reason was. My guess is it was probably more of, I don't know. But anyway, he got fired. And I told John, hey, if you would like, I'll quit, And John said, no, if you think you can learn something from this, stay on and see what happens. Check it out. And he said he'd heard John Badham's a good guy. They had hired a director before they fired Avildsen, apparently. They literally hired Badham, I think, a week before we were going to shoot. It was very close to before we were going to shoot. And so I telegrammed Stigwood. Here I am, a little shithead. And, this is 1979 or 78. It was around the time Star Wars came out. I think it was 77. And And so 77, so a long time ago. So I telegrammed Robert Stigwood, I must meet with you, urgent. I have to meet with you. I didn't say what, and he being a good guy, he okay, come on over. And I tried to call him. He didn't call back, but he did react to the telegram. And you know what a telegram is?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, not too many people know. So I told him, Avelson's brilliant. I know him, and he's great. And you're making a huge mistake, and you just trust him. He's great. And Robert was very nice. He was very polite. And I assumed I was going to get fired. And it turned out his nephew, who worked on the film, was a production assistant. His nephew told me that Robert actually liked me and liked the fact that I pushed back, and they kept me on. And it turned out Badham was really great, and Badham wrote took that script and added the big. He added he made it his own, but he kept most of Wexler's genius. But he did add a scene where the car crashes into the hideout of the. Oh no! Did you get cut off?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay, something buzzed. Badham wrote the scene. I'm sure he wrote other stuff, but I was with him as he was writing the scene where the car crashes into the gang's headquarters.
Yeah.
And I saw how they did that. And if you see Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD, a Troma modest budget movie, we have the exact same thing of a car crashing into a dry cleaning wall, a picture window, a dry cleaner's window, store window. And I did it the exact way they did it on Saturday Night Fever, except I didn't have people that were paid $3,000 a week doing it. We did it, we were all unpaid or whatever.
Hey, you learned something.
I learned a fucking hell of a lot. And Badham was great. He's a terrific guy. And again, he suffered from the mediocrity of the crew and the main when these bigger movies, there was very little support for him. The unit managers and the production managers and the ADs, they're spoiled. They don't have to think. Everything's writing a check, and they don't. They're really not interested in the writing of the movie or the direction. At least that's my experience in my world of union movies. Their attitudes were terrible, and I was, totally obsessed with film. So I hung on. I found I got to see Bingo Long Traveling All Stars, which was a great movie, a TV movie. And then I saw Badham was smart and he loved movies and he was well read and he went to Yale. He was a little older than I, and a great guy. So I stayed with him, and in addition to being the location executive, I got friendly with him and tried to get him. Tried to make life easier for him because he didn't get a lot of support from the Schlocko production staff. At least in my opinion, they were Schlocko. My boss was a great guy. Milt Felsen and Mike Hausman were terrific, but they had these DGA, Directors Guild people that just were hacks. So, I was the only one that cared in terms of the production. That's not fair to say. I'm sure everybody cared, but I was obsessed. And it was hated that job because it was winter. I was outdoors and location. If you film the exterior of a house at night, in fact, Ralph Boda, the guy from Cry Uncle and who ended up doing the Rocky Philadelphia stuff, he became the director of photography on Saturday Night Fever, but he was great with locations. But when you shoot a location, if you're shooting an exterior of a house, a good director of photography, he wants to put lights on the neighboring houses, and he wants to make sure the lights are turned on in the windows, and then you need the Saturday Night Fever was not a big budget movie, even though it was Paramount, so they didn't have honey wagons, and it would be stupid to do it anyway because John Travolta was kind of a big star, and the more trucks and bullshit, the more people are going to know there's a movie there. So I had to go and get green rooms in neighboring houses or across the street, and I had to tell the neighbors get permission for parking. It was like running for Congress. They wrote a little piece about me in the when the movie opened, and they had like a theater program, one of those things you get, like a little magazine.
Yeah.
And they had a section on me, and I said it was like running for Congress. Because I had to literally win over not just the location, but everybody around the location to make sure that nobody interfered and that people cooperated. And then I had to get them to do it for free. Imagine, going into somebody's house. Would you mind if we plugged in our light here or tied in into your basement with a big light so we can? And they were so nice. They were in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and I think we paid the people whose house we wrecked $100 a day or something, and I got him an autograph or something with Travolta. We had to build walls in there, and it's pretty rough on a place when you have a professional union crew trampling through with their boots and cigarettes, and in those days you could smoke inside. The first day we were in that house, and that was the house that Badham wanted. And I had to practically blow everybody in the family. And it was the nicest family, but they had kids who go to school. They were very nervous about it, and rightfully so. For $100 a day, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So the first day, one of the crew puts a cigarette out on the wall of the house.
You're kidding.
So I yelled at the guy, what the, and then I was the one who got I was the one that the shop steward or somebody got pissed off at me, because it's the union, and I'm just a shitty production person. So I also remember once I picked up some cable at a wrap. We were outside at the paint shop, and I was helping. I thought, let's help with the wrap. So I picked up a big. They call it horse cock. It's this really thick cable that you use to tie into the fuse box, and then you plug all your lights into this big, like a giant heavy-duty extension box that you can plug in the lights. These giant 5Ks and 10Ks, but you have to tie into the basement. So I picked up a big coil of this stuff and brought it over to the truck, figuring I'll help these guys. I'm a team player. I got yelled at for that. I got yelled at.
I've gotten yelled at for that same thing.
They want overtime, so they want it to last as long as they can. So in the case of looking through the camera, I think that was more. It wasn't even the camera department that yelled at me. It was some other person. But I think it's more they want to keep this mysterious. This is, union work is so technical. You have to be very. It's not. The big secret is it's much harder to, much harder.
Yeah.
It's much harder to be the accountant than with all due respect to the camera people. In any event, that was a great learning experience, and the movie is great. It's a wonderful movie, and. It's just too bad Avildsen got himself thrown off that one. And he also got thrown off of Serpico. I could have been on that film if he didn't get thrown off. Although by the time Serpico came along, I was pretty much making my own damn movies. But he got thrown off the Howard Stern movie. He could have been on, what was the other one? There was another big one that he got thrown off of. I don't remember. But, he did the Karate Kid series, and he's got an amazing, he has incredible, just Rocky, but Karate Kid, right? Both those movies are landmark. Not landmark, they're among the greatest American movies in history.
Even people who haven't seen the movies know what those movies are.
Fuck yeah, yeah. It's interesting because he didn't care about this, going to the, this restaurant or that. He loved movies, but he wasn't into the party, right? And my guess is today he would never have been too heavy into Twitter and Facebook and all that. He didn't. I don't recall that he ever had PR people or He was that kind of guy. And the documentary begins with the documentarians asking people in the street, "Do you know who directed Karate Kid?" And I think one person said Woody Allen. No. The point is nobody knew his name. There are people in the business, obviously.
Well,
and the tragedy of it, the tragedy is that he went, I think, 20 years without working.
Really?
At the end. Something like that. I think he told me maybe.
You two are still friends by the end?
Yeah, he was my pot guru. Also, he had to work. He kept me up to date on all the latest technological pot inventions. I never had a vape. He sent me a vape for my birthday when vapes came in. Hey, so long, Benjamin. Have a nice evening.
Thank you again.
I'm doing an interview.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend. It was one of the pyramid vape when those vapes came in, and then he gave me when we did the commentary track for my home movies. He gave me a little tiny thing that you put marijuana in. They were like a mini vape that you could carry in your pocket, and that was, and then he told me about the oil, and then unfortunately he died. So these little tiny vapes that you can use now are terrific, but he would have liked them.
I do appreciate you sitting down with us, Lloyd.
Well, I wish I were sitting down with you, but
well, through the internet. Next time I'm in New York, I plan to actually stop in and say hi and bother you guys a little bit.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think about the interesting thing about Avildsen too, and this is the mentality. Stan Lee's the same way. He had this great script, Avildsen. It was called something like Nate and Al, about an old survivor of the Holocaust and his American son.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful script, and you could make it for $500,000. You could make it on the Troma budget. And I kept saying, John, I said, you've got money. Why don't you put up some of it? I'll put in some money. And he just didn't. They get in that frame of mind, I guess, where they don't want to go back to sort of the lower budget. So he sat there for 18 years, 20. When he told me it was 18 years, but maybe it's 20 years now. And he just didn't. He didn't want to do it unless it was, I guess, sort of the Hollywood way. And what a pity! It's too bad. Right?
He's an artist. Like he wanted to do it the way he felt served it best.
Well, they could have served. This one didn't need stars. This one doesn't need stars, and it could have been another kind of Rocky for him. But I think he just didn't want to be having to cut corners and all that stuff. He wanted a certain and oddly enough. I made he wanted Kirk Douglas and Michael Douglas to do the parts. And I had worked Final Countdown, which was my last mainstream contact with the mainstream, and the project that totally frosted me to ever again working within the mainstream was Final Countdown. Peter Douglas, Kirk's at the time 19-year-old son, I was his associate producer, and we had a small piece of the movie, the Final Countdown. So I got Peter, who had long since moved up north. He was no longer in the movie. At least he wasn't producing Hollywood movies.
Yeah,
I think he might have been. He had some other business, but that was successful, and I think it may have been producing medical movies of something. I can't remember, but I got to him and I asked him, could you please can we get the script to Kirk and Michael, because you have an Oscar-winning director who wants to make a movie with them. And I sent the script to Peter, who passed it along to Kirk, with whom I also became friendly. Kirk was very, very proud of Troma. After Final Count, because I went to a couple of events that he was honored in, and But I never heard from anybody. And John, I asked John, "Do you want me to follow up?" And he said, "No. It's clearly that's how it's done out here. You don't hear, they don't call you back." But you'd think he could get to Kirk Douglas and
You'd
and
think
Michael
so.
Douglas. Yeah.
Huh.
So shows you they he hadn't had a hit for a while. That's how they do it, right?
Maybe you should make that movie for him in his honor.
Well, I went. The Avildsen, as I think I've hinted at you, meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
And they had, when they had the memorial for him at the Directors Guild, I went from New York to the L.A., Los Angeles, to that event, the memorial, for one day. I went and came back. I just did it out of respect. But the guy who wants to produce that, the guy who owns the script or controls it, I told him, hey, let's do it. Let's do it like the old days. Because he produced a movie that we bought that Avildsen has a piece of, that Avildsen directed if you want to see a great short movie, we own a movie called Fourplay, Four Play, Play. But it's actually 3 long short movies by 3 different directors. And Avildsen's is terrific. Zero Mostel and Estelle Parsons.
Okay.
It's fabulous. It's the best. And they all play it to the hilt. Again, totally fierce, courageous actors. And Korzen produced it with Karl Gurevich, I believe. And I told him about it, but he didn't call me. So I told, I think his name is Benny Korzen, and I said to him, why don't we try to do it on the Troma budget? And he seemed to be interested in that, but I never heard from him. So
well, maybe
there's a
one day.
Stan Lee's the same way, because I remember he was telling me when Michael Jackson was alive, Michael Jackson calls me up and he wants to make a movie with me. And I've got this great idea, and Michael Jackson loves it, and I'm trying to get I need to get an A writer on it. I got to get an A-level writer. And I said to Stan, well, how much is an A-level writer? It's $100,000. This was probably going back. This was quite a bit before Michael Jackson died.
Uh-huh.
And $100,000 is not that much, right? And I said, well, Stan, why don't you put it up? Get the script written. They don't think in those terms. There's some kind of, I guess it's the environment or the culture or I guess in the same way that I no matter how well-to-do I get, I will take the shampoo from the free luxury hotel that festival puts me up in. It's just in my nature, and I think they get so wrapped up in the culture of being part of the A-level mainstream that they don't want to come down to doing it, doing the in Stan's case, I think he just didn't. I don't know. It was weird, but they have a certain modus. They have a certain thing in their head that they'd rather not do it than either put in money or go down a rung on the food chain to make the lower budget movie. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a great script.
I'd love to read it, but I don't think it's probably not available.
No, I should call Benny Korzen back up and see what's up with that, because, well, it's not that commercial. It's an old guy and he's in the thing and the sun but Avildsen would have made it amazing. I don't know that I could do it justice, but Avildsen really, it was a perfect film for Avildsen. It had Avildsen people in it. He had another tragedy too with this fucking Van Damme. Avildsen made a movie with Van Damme, and Van Damme totally fucked it up. Oh,
that's a shame.
It was unfortunately Van Damme had the power, and when I was interviewing Avildsen for the Cryuncle DVD, he had finished shooting Van Damme's movie, and Avildsen was telling me that Van Damme was all coked up and And in fact, Avildsen he edited Avildsen shoot like I do. He shoots, and I learned this from Avildsen. He shoots a lot of behind the scenes home movies while he's making a movie. I do the same thing. But I got it from Warhol more than from Avildsen. Warhol always had a camera with him, so I always carried a camera. But then when video came in, I changed it to a video camera. But Avildsen always was making these shooting behind the scenes and shooting the auditions, which I do, and I have always done that. But and he taught me that. But he where was I now? Why am I talking about
Van
this?
Damme, and then something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I came out to film Avildsen for the Triuncle DVD, and I was in his house, and he was on the phone with Van Damme. I filmed him on the phone with Van Damme, and I talked to the camera. If you get the Triuncle DVD, I talk to the camera and I say, right now, John Avildsen's on the phone, and he's talking to whatever his name is, Van Damme, and he's trying to tell Van Damme. Van Damme did not want to give Avildsen. He took the editing away from Avildsen and cut it himself. And Avildsen said, look, why don't we have 2 screenings? We'll have one with my version and one with your version, and we'll have 2 focus groups. We'll get one of those agencies that do that, and we'll have them see which version is more liked by the audience. And Van Damme wouldn't do it. And I was filming Avildsen from the back and I explained to the audience what's going on. But and the film sucks. And I also came to the set once or twice on that movie, and I saw dailies from that movie, and it looked like it was going to be a real John Avildsen kind of movie with great characters and interesting faces, but it was not to be, and that I think that kind of sealed the fate of his career, I guess.
That's unfortunate.
Film was not it was a bomb, to say the least, and it wasn't his fault. Fucking Van Damme. Oh, Avildsen took home movie shots of Van Damme doing. Because he was always on coke, apparently, according to Avildsen, and he cut different shots and different angles of Van Damme sniffing. He cut it to a piece of classical music like Tchaikovsky or something, or Beethoven, and it's great. And I said, Avildsen, you got to put this on the internet, and he didn't do it, but he's got it somewhere. It's great. It's so funny.
That's amazing.
And yeah, he was great. He really was. So. I could go on forever.
No, I think you've given me plenty to work with, and you've given me some great stories and told me things I didn't even know.
Just the fact that John G. Avildsen had enough interest in a production assistant's feature-length movie, Battle of Love's Return, to be willing to sit through it with the guys. With someone, very often people send you a movie to look at, and you look at a few minutes of it and you say, oh, no, thank you. And the fact that he was willing to sit through it with me there and watch the whole goddamn thing, that tells you something. Back in 1970, that he sat, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
in my opinion. So he was a good guy.
I can hear it in your voice that you two were close.
Yeah, and Norman Wexler unfortunately died. He had some issues. He died, but his daughter is occasionally in touch with me. Yeah. Anyway, I miss Avildsen a lot. Yeah, he was good. I mean, absolutely. Oh, he also introduced me to Jacques d'Amboise, because Jacques was going to be Jacques d'Amboise was the lead male for Balanchine. He was Balanchine's favorite ballet male in New York City Ballet. And Jacques was going to be the choreographer for Saturday Night Fever, which would have been very different from Jojo, whose name the guy who they got, who was great. But I remember when Jacques first came to the production office, and he walked. You looked at the guy, and he was like some kind of animal, a lion or some beautiful animal. I had very little contact with him, but after Saturday Night Fever, Avildsen asked me to work for Avildsen made Jacques d'Amboise started something called the National Dance Institute, which purpose was to get young boys. Originally, the idea was to get young boys looking at ballet as a form of athletics. Ballet, as you know, has a reputation for male for homosexuals, and apparently that is true. Jacques was a very virile. He liked the ladies, and he's still around. He turned 80, and I'm not close to him anymore. But I just not for any reason. Just we made Troma has made 3 or 4 movies for Jacques for free, and the first one was John Avildsen, a short film when Jacques first began the National Dance Institute. It's called Dance Space, and it got into the New York Film Festival, and Michael and I produced it, and we did everything for free. So all they had to pay for was film, and Avildsen did it for free. And I did a lot of that stuff for Avildsen. We shot a short film for Rugoff for independent. He owned a small chain of independent theaters, but he had Cinema 1 and 2 in New York, and he had a distribution company, and he was distributing Pumping Iron. And Avildsen agreed to shoot this trailer for Rugoff, Schwarzenegger, and he had us come and get the equipment, and, produce it for, be the line producers, and we all worked for free. So we did these other things that that Avildsen was nice enough to do for people, and after Dance Space, Troma we made at least 2 more. We made 2 feature-length documentaries. That one was in China, and that got on HBO. That's a feature-length movie, a documentary, and I was there. I brought one of my daughters there, and of course did it for free. In fact, on that one, I put in some money, and the other one was. What the hell was the other one? It was a feature length. So we did a lot of work for Jacques d'Amboise, and Jacques d'Amboise choreographed a dance in Stuck on You. And
really?
If you're into ballet, Jacques d'Amboise is a bigger than life character. He's up there with Nuria. He's one of the greats. And Michael Hers, we were plotting out the choreography, and Michael Hers was the dance double. He played the girl. The non-male, the cis-identified feminine person, whatever you can say, a gyno actor. Michael was dance double for Jacques d'Amboise. If only we would have had digital video in those days to get Michael Hers dancing with Jacques d'Amboise. Oh, I'm so sorry, I missed that. Never even took a photograph. So there you go. At any rate, so you can see. So much of my humble career is Avildsen fueled, even my eleemosynary work, even so much of the work I did for free was Avildsen inspired. That's how loyal I am and was to him.
Well, that's great. Like I said, I knew that Avildsen had a big part in the beginning of your career. I hadn't realized how he had kept influencing the later part of it, and that a big part of Troma's success is because of Avildsen.
He also told me, which I've never been able to do, he said, your movies are very funny. Why don't you, I gave him a script to read before, in pre-production to get some notes from him. And he said, what you should do? You should perform the script at a comedy club and get an audience there and see where they laugh. And, we have no money. He could snap his fingers and get a nightclub and rent it and get an audience. And I went around town trying to find comedy clubs but Troma was, not known really, was still not known, and we have no money. And I never could do it. On this movie I'm about to make, we're going to do it, finally. The Upright Citizens Brigade is involved with us, and the guy writing the script is a member and a teacher there. And we're going to get this theater, the Pit, which is their headquarters in New York, and we're going to perform the script there. Not with the cast necessarily, but just with good acting and good, we'll get good people, comedians to read the parts, and we'll perform it in front of an audience, and we'll see where they laugh and where they don't laugh. And now that Troma is well known, the Pit is willing to let us have the place for free, and the people will watch for free, and my name and Troma is big enough so that we'll get an audience since it's free.
Yeah.
So and that was Allison's idea, and finally I'm actually able to make it happen. So how cool is that?
It's really cool. But I think I've kept you long enough, an hour past our original amount of time.
I wouldn't spend all this much time if it was not you, Michael, who's done so much for Troma, and of course John G. Avildsen, who probably made it clear that he's a god in my little universe.
Well, you've been a big part of my little universe as well. You gave me a job pretty early on. Even though it wasn't paid, it was still a job. You got me working and doing things, and you were the shining... You and the Troma team were the only nice part about me going to Cannes. Let's put it that way.
Oh, well, I'm glad you went, and it's a great experience. I'm never going back to Cannes, not after the experience we had this time. So it's a fascist festival.
Yeah.
We got, you can, I believe, I think at Troma Movies, we put up a short, wait a minute, no, we didn't put it up yet. No.
Was it the Occupy Cannes? Because that was the year I was there.
No, that wasn't great, but we weren't mistreated. This time, the festival people, these big guys in suits, had the cops literally arresting us for the parades and the street theater.
I did read about that, yeah.
Stuff I've been doing for, over 40 years, right? The cops know us. They like us, right? The people of Cannes love us. They enjoy Troma. We're a fixture. But the festival apparently didn't like the fact that we were not, we were getting as maybe more attention than the little coterie of people that they whose movies they show, and of course the big conglomerate movies that they also show. But for some reason they did not. They said that the Troma picket signs were political. The cops had these big tall guys in suits with sunglasses and earphones and the things in their ears who were behind the cops, and our guys got pushed. Before I got there, they shoved John, my assistant, and about 10 of our volunteers and cast members who were having a nice parade. They pushed them up against the wall, and they didn't beat them, but they came as close. They took their licenses, and it was horseshit. And it was the festival, in my opinion, that was behind it. And then they wouldn't let us. They wouldn't let us do our parades. They wouldn't let us carry. They wouldn't let us make any noise. It's supposed to be a festival. But Disney had pirates. They had that pirate movie. They were dressed up in masks, and they had guns and knives and swords. Caribbean of the Pirates of the Caribbean. No problem with Disney. So we filmed all this stuff, and we're cutting a short. We're cutting a short called "From Festival to Fascism." And I'm fucking 71 years old. They're arresting me. What am I gonna do? Right?
Well, as soon as it's made available, send it my way. I will I'll share it out and make sure people see it.
But just the idea and I'll never go back to Cannes. I'll never go again.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, really bad stuff. And the south of France is where it was like the ground zero for the French fascism. The Vichy government. And I speak fucking fluent French. And I've been going to France since I'm like 9 years old. And I've been going to Cannes since 1971 when I slept on the beach. And everybody loved it. They thought it was great. It was a festival. It is not a festival. It is some kind of club for a certain coterie of intellectual filmmakers who all are in the club. And then it's a mouthpiece for, it's under the thumb of these big companies who sponsor, who pay they need the big sponsors. So they show a lot of big movies, and I don't know what, I really don't get it that they, were that nasty to us. I don't understand it. We had nothing. We had no fake guns. We had no fake knives. Kabuki Man is in makeup. It's not even a mask. Yes, Toxic Avenger is a mask. But they all know the fucking Toxic. He's carrying a mop, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Sundance took the mop away. They confiscated the mop. They said it was a weapon. They confiscated the accordion. We had a guy playing the accordion. They confiscated the accordion.
That's insane.
But right up the street, they had a band. They had a cover band playing very loud, shitty rock and roll. So, it is a bad world right now. Very bad.
But you're one of the better things in it, and I appreciate your time, Lloyd.
Thanks, Michael. Good luck with everything. Merry Christmas. Keep in touch, and let me know when this airs.
I will. I'll send you a link.
Great. Thank you, and good luck with everything.